Well, good morning and welcome to D-Day, Anambra Decides. Now, while today's focus is fully on the Anambra elections rather than our usual breakfast extra lineup, we're still kicking things off the way we are used to doing with our signature monologue to set the tone. So here goes. It's election day in Anambra today, and somehow it feels like more than just a vote for who becomes governor. It feels like a test, not just for the voters, not for the parties, but for one man. The new INEC Chairman, Professor Joash Amupitan. You could almost call this his entrance exam into trust. Now, if you remember his confirmation hearing before the National Assembly, he said in a calm, careful voice that, well, you know, most bureaucrats are used to using while they're walking through a minefield. INEC must regain public confidence through transparency, technology, and integrity. Strong words, the kind that echoes long after the mic goes off. But today, Anambra has handed him his first real question paper. And the exam room, well, that's anything but quiet, because this isn't just an election, it's an Anambra election, a place where zoning has its own politics, where sit-at-home orders sometimes cast longer shadows than campaign posters, where the economy is as anxious as the voters, and where INEC's greatest test is not just counting votes, but counting on people to even show up in the first place. Now, let's be honest, Professor Joash Amupitan has been thrown into the deep blue sea, like it or not. The presidency is watching, the opposition is watching, civil society is watching, and ordinary Nigerians like you and I, well, we're watching too, but maybe with one eye open and the other one rolling. Because here's the truth. He's swimming with the same old tools, the same BVAS that sometimes behaves like a moody teenager, the same ad hoc staff who sometimes show with enthusiasm and sometimes without network, the same security worries that make many people, many voters think twice before leaving home. So the question becomes, what can he possibly do differently? He can't rebuild technology overnight. He can't guarantee that fear won't sit quietly beside hope at polling stations. But maybe, just maybe, he can show that leadership matters even when the system is slow to change. Maybe he can insist that results upload in real time, not Nigerian time. Maybe he can make communication clear, transparent, and human, not wrapped in endless press statements nobody really wants to hear or trust. And maybe, just maybe, he can show that INEC can stand tall even when politics tries to bend it. Because make no mistake, this isn't just about Anambra, it's about the credibility of 2027. If he passes this test today, he doesn't just win the confidence of the state, he wins the faith of a nation that desperately wants to believe again. So, Professor Joash Amupitan, from all of us watching, we say, no pressure, sir. But this might just decide whether Nigerians still believe in democracy or finally start looking for the vote. Then again, maybe there is a bit of pressure. Well, may your network be strong, may your staff be steady, your logistics be timely, and may your BVAS, please, may your BVAS behave itself. Because like every Nigerian exam, this one may be tough, but we need you to pass. You're welcome to the live coverage of the Anambra governorship elections 2025 on Breakfast Extra.
Welcome. It's election day in Anambra State, and once again, the state finds itself at the center of Nigeria's democratic test. But beyond the ballots and the buzz, one question looms large. What do voters really expect from this process, and what do they actually get? From technology glitches to security fears and last-minute logistics, many Nigerians are watching to see whether this election will mark progress or simply replay familiar patterns. Now, this vote comes at a delicate point, with the new INEC chairman trying to prove his credibility, deep voter apathy, threatening turnout, as well as economic hardship, shaping political loyalty in a new way. And so for Anambra, it's more than just a contest of candidates. It's a referendum on trust, on process, and perhaps on hope itself.
So joining us this morning to unpack Anambra Decides 2025, voter expectations versus reality, are Michael Okpi and the Center for Development and Civic Society, or rather Education, and also Ikena Azu and Chinwe, a member of the Obedient Movement. Gentlemen, welcome. But I'm being told now that we only have one person in the studio here with us. You are welcome, so thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you.
Before we get to the questions, sir, let me just quickly bring in our correspondent. We have Chinwe Ugele, who is live in Anambra, just to give us a bit of update. Now, we do know that, of course, it's 7:28. She's standing right in front of a polling station. Chinwe, good morning to you. What's the latest? Have the officers started arriving with the materials?
Good morning, Judith. And I want to tell you that this morning, as of this time, all the materials meant for elections in Agwata local government area have all been dispatched from that office. We got there this morning and the materials are being dispatched, and as of now, there's no single material meant for the election that's still in that office. And currently, I'm standing in front of Opo Village Hall, which has 3 polling units here, and the officials have already set up waiting for voters to come out and for the voting exercise to begin. I also have here with me a gentleman, Mr. Emeka Opo, who is from this community and also a party agent. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Emeka Ibakama.
Okay. So tell us how it feels to come out this morning and see that INEC has already set up for elections.
Well, I'm here around 7. When I came here, I saw INEC was already here, so I'm very, very happy to see them coming in time.
Are you confident that INEC will do a good job today?
Yes, I'm 100% confident.
What about the turnout? Do you think people will come out to vote?
Yes. They will come out, yes.
Okay, so we will have to wait until 8 a.m. when it's expected that actual voting will begin. But then one good thing that has happened is that for now, in this local government area, I am not sure anybody is going to complain about late arrival of materials.
Chinwe, many thanks. We appreciate you for that update. Chinwe Ugele there live in one of the polling units, polling stations there in Anambra. Let's switch gears back to Mr. Michael Okpi. I want to say thank you for being so patient with us. Now, many have said that this election will be the INEC Chairman, Joash Amupitan's first real test under this new leadership. But I mean, when you look at the preparedness ahead of these elections, it first started with Mahmoud Yakubu, then the acting chairman, Ms. May Agbomuche, and then finally to Amupitan. I mean, seeing all that transition in leadership, do you think that the commission is ready? Do you think this will be a real test, or are we being too hard on Amupitan?
Well, good morning, viewers. We politicians, we have our method of finding out what is happening within the INEC family. One thing I can tell Anambra people this morning is that we have so many reasons to rejoice, because from the INEC rats within the INEC complex in Oka, we are hearing good news. It is no longer business as usual, from my own assessment.
Right. Second, I must apologize. I referred to you wrongly, so forgive me for that. Mazino.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much once again for joining, sir. There is a big issue. And, well, when it comes to preparedness, there's always the matter of the issue when it comes to security in Anambra State. This affects how materials are distributed, especially the sensitive materials, and how movement and even the electorate are expected to come out. What do you think will transpire today with this matter on hand?
Well, from what is happening on ground, I can't really tell you all the security informations I have, because both the criminals are watching as I speak. What I can assure you is that this election, from the last 4 weeks, in my assessment, if anything goes wrong, it will be recorded as one of those pockets of crime that is inevitable in any society. One good thing I've noted, and I will also advise the new INEC chairman, if he's watching, he has to pay attention to his operation guys. From so far what we observe from the INEC office, it has been a fantastic instruction, fantastic guideline. Everybody is on point till as at 10 minutes ago. But those old folks who has been working with the former system, the new INEC chairman must have someone of his eyes vetting the jobs of those people. I think he has done an excellent job till now, because we don't have anybody scrambling to get their material for their local government. Everything is well planned out.
Now, this is true, Mr. Azumchine. Mr. Azumchine, this is true, but my reference was to how you think it's going to affect voter turnout when it comes to the trust they have in security. Do you think that they are confident enough to step out with the situations that still persist in Anambra State in certain areas, especially with the whole sit-at-home situation? Do you think the electorate are confident enough to come out today and vote in numbers?
You know, the sit-at-home thing is political. Anambra people are determined to have a governor that is their own. So the sensitization so far has been awesome. What we are praying for is for the security forces to be on their toes today, this morning, to make sure that the materials get to their destination. That is the news we are waiting for. As I speak now, materials have moved and we are monitoring. There can be only one place where we might have glitches, the Ihiala axis. But I can tell you that the statement is the DSS, the last 3 months, have been on that same issue of Ihiala, hitting hard on those bandits. And I think they've done an excellent job. We are hopeful and waiting for an Anambra that will be an example to the nation.
Well, Mr. Azumchine, thank you very much. I'm being told that we have with us now Michael Okwi, Deputy National Coordinator, Grassroots Mobilization Platform for Good Governance in Nigeria, GMPGGN. Mr. Michael Okwi, you are welcome. Thank you very much. Can we have him up on the screen? Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Mr. Okwi, I do have to ask, we'll be talking about security. Let's also bring to fore the peace accord that was signed. Mr. Azumchine pointed out that the sit-at-home is political and it might not play out today. Do you agree to that assertion? To that assertion, I beg your pardon.
Thank you very much. I do not totally agree with him because since the inception of this peace accord issue, it has been playing some psychological role among the candidates to observe the tenets of elections. So the peace accord, I think, has some measure of role to play among the candidates to observe the tenets of the election. However, it is also good to note that what is on ground in Anambra State may also agree with what Chris said, that it may not really play, because you remember that certain political party, the ruling party, walked out of the security meeting where it was clearly stated that every local vigilante should be disarmed and disbanded for this moment, because they have no role to play for these elections. Due to that, some member of the ruling party walked away of the party. What does that show? I pray that the security agency deployed for this election will play the role expected for them to maintain peace during this morning and throughout the election period, the voting period.
Right. INEC has a lot on its shoulders at this point, right? But most importantly is also the will of the people of Anambra State to choose what the next 4 years will be for the state. Do you see a turnout, a high turnout in spite of all that's going on socially. But most importantly, what is your points, your high points that you'd like to see for INEC in terms of performance for today?
Now, I think from the issues that played out during the electioneering campaign, that the people of Anambra State are ready to elect their governor and make it their own governor. Having said that, it's also good to note that the environment is, as I walked out this morning before I got here, is calm, and the people are ready and willing to cast their votes and elect their governor. I think the apathy that is always noted in Anambra State governorship election, other elections should be disapproved this morning, because people are really willing to cast their vote this morning to choose their own governor. I think it's going to be a very impressive turnout today.
Mr. Okwi, I'd like us to talk about trust when it comes to the apparatus being used. Let's talk technology now. IREV, BVAS. It's the same old tools, but we're still using them come this election here today. And I'm wondering whether the electorate are confident in these apparatus that are being used. What's your take on it?
So the issue of technology recently in electoral process has been very controversial. Some say BVAS and the IREV are not compulsory. Others say they are going to use it. But what is important is let INEC take a stand on the process they're going to use, so that people will have confidence in the technology aspect of this election, because before now it has been a very big problem, talking about the glitches, talking about discretionary power to determine which technology, which process to use, BVAS and IREV.
We seem to have lost Mr. OP there due to network connectivity. Let's switch gears now to Mr. Akunchene. Sir, you earlier during your response, you were saying that there's some, rats in the INEC office. So I do have to ask you about whether or not those rats have been giving murmurings regarding, accessibility. Now, we know that we have, 21 local government areas and about 2.1 million registered voters across Anambra State. Let's talk about accessibility and infrastructural delays that might cause accessibility to some locations or local government areas. What do you foresee? Where do you foresee these issues or challenges coming up?
Well, first of all, I said rats means in the past. Now the rats don't bring out any information anymore because they don't have any such information. So that's positive.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that during an electioneering period, you have drivers, you have policemen, you have all those local stars who are hanging around INEC. If anything is going wrong, you will hear it from them firsthand. But as I tell you today, all we have is positive news. The new INEC chairman has decided to take the bull by the horn, from what I'm hearing. He is on top of every group in the INEC headquarters, telling them that if he fails, they will all be held accountable, and that he's not going to allow them. So that's already a good news. For the security aspect, you can see the quantum of police officers everywhere. And we should hold their leaders accountable to make sure that they bring into Anambra those officers who will not compromise the system. And as I speak to you, the Anambrarians are watching and patiently trooping out, because the campaign was fierce. It was a fierce campaign, but I can tell you, some of the losers who already know they will lose might walk out or do some other things to just make themselves relevant.
Do you want to name names?
What I can tell you is that the Anambra people are ready for this election.
Who are these losers that you refer to, sir?
Well, if you know you will lose a game, the only game you have is to try to show some dissatisfaction from whatever process you attend to be able to show that you are distressed. But what I can tell you is that the winning point is at the polling unit. The results will troop out and we'll know who the winner is. Anambra is a very traditional state, if I can tell you.
Right.
We know inside us that is a state that you dare not try to compromise, because there's a lot of tradition attachments to this Anambra election. There's if I can call it, a kind of a structure that is naturally imbibed in Anambra people. So you must give them that, and that will reflect in their voting. They will speak loudly.
But you still didn't answer about, the hard-to-reach areas when it comes to logistical issues and infrastructural challenges when delivering materials, especially to those hard-to-reach areas across the 21 local government areas in the state.
The only flashpoint as of today is the Ihiala local government. And I can tell you that the last 3, 4, 5 months, there has been serious pounding on those non-state actors. I'm aware, because I use also security in Anambra. And I hear when they discuss. Most of them, they spend the night and they come out and they tell us what's going on. So we have been monitoring the system. And don't forget, when we speak from our own observation. We don't speak from what we're hearing from other people. My assessment of Anambra's election is that they are prepared. The state government and the other the opposition parties, they have been working together before now for every party to come together and agree that the election will hold. For election to hold in Anambra, there is a lot you need to do. There are a lot of non-state actors you must take care of. These are not things we come here and spill out. But I can tell you, as of this morning, the 8th of November, Anambra people are ready and they know what it will cost them if there's any glitch today. So we are all ready, and you can see it from the movement of INEC materials is already arriving in some of the far areas as far back as Oga. So that's a good sign.
Indeed, and that's very encouraging for today, actually. You do say true. Mr. Azu, I don't know if you remember 2023. By this time, there was plenty of, buzz. And that buzz was created around young people. I don't know, Judith, if you remember, we had so many memes from inside of the elections during 2023. And this was powered by the youth who actually used social media. It showed a sort of enthusiasm that we didn't see in, previous elections.
Yeah.
So one would think, especially in the East, we had, I don't want to mention the parties' names, but we had memes that were of people chanting.
Well, the N-word?
Say again now?
The contestants with the N-word.
No, this was during the while the votes were being counted. We had all these memes that came out and all of that. But this was driven by young people. So, Mr. Azu, I don't know if you agree that there seems to be a certain lack of enthusiasm from that group of electorate. The young people, do you think that the young people are still excited about this election, this governorship election in 2025? Or has that Eastern fire faded? Are the youth frustrated? Do you think that we are going to see them come out in numbers today?
Well, I don't completely agree with you, because 2023, there was a particular candidate that was a person of interest. But today, those youths, when you come to state elections, youths do not really get very emotional. They go to who they feel is the best for them to vote for. But as of today, I can tell you, those youths of 2023, a whole lot of them have taken other decisions. Why? Because local election is not the same as federal election. So I'll give you an example for those that I know. The obedience in my own region, we are completely independent of who to support. A whole lot of us could choose one person to support, while the others will support. Like I said, we are in different political parties as obedience. But when we come to Anambra, for example, you realize that most obedience still believe in one same party that we want to vote for, because we know why we are voting for that candidate. It's not really because of our principle. But today in Anambra, I can assure you, young people will make smart decisions, because it's not about party affiliations.
Mr. Azu, I understand what you're saying here, that the young people of today are very liberal. They have a diverse a range of candidates that they can support. based on how they feel. But it seems that there is a lack of one central focal candidate that actually makes that movement like we saw in 2023, despite the fact that it was a federal election. I know it's states, it's governorship, but there is no verve, no, you know, it seems to be, even building up to today, there seems to be nothing of the sort. You can disagree with me.
If you will.
Yeah, it's lackluster when it comes to that demographic.
Well, I'm trying to run away from trying to give you my political base now in Anambra because I'm obedient. We are not campaigning here, but if I may tell you what political somersault I've taken just because of Anambra elections, it will surprise you. What I'm trying to explain to you is that, for example, from my own obedience perspective, we belong to every political party. By the time we sit down and assess ourselves, for example, vis-a-vis Anambra, you will see that a whole lot of my group have decided to go to one particular aspirant. If you ask them reasons, they will tell you, of course, most of these people in different other parties had voted for this same person while we were running. So I will not come here to explain all that now. But what I can tell you is that the young people in Anambra know where to go, and they will go there.
Anambra has been plagued with a lot in the last 4 years and even beyond that. When we look at the insecurity, most importantly, the targeted youth as well, who have been prescribed or, you know, sort of initiated in this cult movement or IPOB movements that have caused unrest and everything else. When you say that the youth are ready, are you factoring all of that that's happening on the state or in the state?
Well, I've told you that some of this insecurity in the Southeast, as I said, from my observation, it is political. You see, the Southeast people, I am a Southeasterner grown up in the North. I see the insecurity in Anambra from a different perspective. People feel that they've not been part of the national cake. A whole lot of them believe that getting it in a violent way is the best option. While some of us believe, partner the Nigerian state, do the right things, build the trust around it, let them share it with you. So it's a whole different narrative. I think some of the players in Anambra understood that even if they are in the opposition party, they have realized that the best thing to do is to reach out to the broader Nigerian people and make sure that the trust is there. And that's what is happening today. People are appealing to Anambrarians, make sure you vote so that you'll be able to make it clear that the Igbo people are ready to play with the national politics, not sectional politics. And the local parties here are already imbibing that in their system. I can tell you, if you talk about insecurity, you realize that today, for example, you will see a quiet Anambra. I don't think you record any attacks today. I am very positive about what I'm saying because
I love that positivity.
Anambrarians.
I love that positivity. I hope that everybody also carries that mood about. Mr. Azu and Chinwe, let's talk about the fact that we have a new INEC chairman, and that is none other than Professor Joash Amupitan. So this election is not just a test of who becomes governor. It's actually a test of democracy itself when it comes to Nigeria and how INEC chooses to implement whatever resources it has. So I'm wondering what you think. Would you say that the outcome today could shape national politics onward? Would you say, based on the fact that there is a new INEC chairman, that we are going to use this as a template for 2027 and onward?
Let me share a personal experience with you yesterday. When I arrived the stakeholders meeting, my driver told me, he said, Oga, have you seen who is the INEC chairman? I kept laughing because, you know, I live in Jos. The professor gentleman you are seeing there is a man that has lived in Jos for a very long time. We know his reputation. I am excited today that for the first time, I can say that there's a good appointment here. And I pray that he puts his searchlight on the operational base of INEC. Because most of the time, you might be calling INEC chairman, INEC chairman. If somebody in his operations will compromise, the INEC chairman is in trouble. So advice that we are giving him today, he should watch his operational people and make sure he keeps them on their toes. For the INEC chairman, I give him kudos.
So, Mr. Azopchide, I love how positive you are, how enthusiastic you are about this fellow Jos man. That's on one side.
I am very, very, very enthusiastic because I had a personal experience of where he has dealt with issues.
Tell us about that experience, sir.
For me, from the angle I'm coming from,
can you give us,
with him,
can you give us,
he should not disappoint me.
I want you to give us one or two experience where you've seen him deal with issues and how it can be applied here in the processes. Where, remember, he's been put inside of a system without new tools. He's been given the same old BVAS, IREV, problems, the challenges of the bad network, staff not having the materials on time. Nothing seems to have been given to him as a new implement.
Yes.
He's simply working on what is on ground. He's just one man inside of a system. How do you think he can change it? If he has any antecedents where he has done this before, do let us know.
You know, he's a lawyer. So he has read the system, and he should be able to know that when you send someone to go and carry out a function that is that you can be induced with money, for example, you must put others to checkmate the process. And I'm sure that's what he has done. Because it's not business as usual. If it was business as usual, we would have seen it at the INEC head office in Oka. You would have heard things that will make me not to be very positive today. But I've gone on my own local search, talked to some of the local people and those vendors around INEC office. They will even tell you that things are not as business as usual. They wouldn't even allow vendors go and give people food. Everybody that goes into INEC headquarters is monitored. That's already a good sign. Like I can tell you again, I will not give you my personal encounter with the INEC chairman, but I know I've dealt with one of his clients where there was a dispute, and to be honest, to give it to him, he had to pay his own money for the dispute to be resolved, for peace to reign. And this young man told me that, look, my lawyer decided to pay for this dispute to be resolved between I and some other person. And behold, after 4 years, this is the same man that has been appointed INEC chairman. I will sit back and listen to people talk nonsense. I said, the man Amupitan will show you who he is after today. You will all attest to it. I will not relent in giving him what is for him. But if he goofs, I will come back here and say it.
Well, you know what they say in local parlance, initial gra-gra. So let's hope and see that this is not initial gra-gra, so to speak. Let's talk about, earlier you said that, your members of the Obedient Movement is not particularly about party affiliations, but more about the candidates and their manifesto. Are you factoring zoning as well? Because we know zoning was a huge discussion when it comes to, who else would take the mantle in terms of directing or leading the state subnationally and on a national level. Are members of Obedient also putting that into factor, or is it just, qualification, manifesto, and who can serve the people right?
Well, let me be honest to you. I am from Anambra Central, and I'm obedient. We know in Anambra there is this rotation that is unconstitutional, but it's norm. Every governor in Anambra State comes from either north or south or central. If you do your 8 years, it moves quietly to the next zone. So most of the obedience in my direction have tilted to the current governor, maintaining that he should go for his last 4 years and give power to their people so that they can now bring in whatever they feel they can do to help their people. Some obedience are also in the family of, okay, this guy is from our zone, let's not disenfranchise him, let him complete. You also have this fact where the obedience choice, a leader, has chosen a man from the same side who we're afraid will not do just one term. So there's a whole lot of permutations here that is hidden in the support system of the obedient network. But at the tail end of it, obedience remains obedience, and we are not going to be dismantled by any, I don't know how to say it. It might not suit well for anybody hearing what I will say here, but I will say it. Obedience have taken their decision, and we know where we're going. And we will prove it today, practically with our voting.
Does the entirety of Anambra also care about zoning, or do they just want a leader who serves the people? Will zoning play out at the exit polls when we look at the ballots?
Well, so far so good. It has been the system. Zoning has been what keeps Anambra peaceful. So when you are talking about violence, I know that there will be no violence because the zoning system in our heads lets us know that come rain, come sun, we know where the game will go to because of that arrangement of zoning. So we are not really panicking. Okay. The Anambra people know that quietly we will elect the governor of Anambra State that will do his term and continue the normal balance of rotation, whether we are obedience, whether we are APGA, whether we are a labor, whether we are whatever. The system in Anambra has kept Anambra peaceful.
Now, I want to ask you something on that note, sir, before you go too far. Now, you've mentioned all these parties, and of course, we know there's 16 different parties across 21 different local governments, and I'm wondering whether you expect the electorate to vote along party lines or individuals, vote for individuals this time, while we're on the subject of zoning. Are people still think...
Don't forget you have 15 governorship aspirants. But from the last 5 months, we know that we are seeing only 2 active. So some might just be gospel singers. So you still allow them to exercise their right of being in the system as governorship aspirant. But we know that if you look inwards, we know those who are serious. Because if I am in my village, for example, and I've not seen your group come to, tell us what you're doing. We have relatives, we have cousins. We know those parties that have conducted their ward tours. We know those parties that have conducted their polling unit tours. We know those that have brought kola nuts. Because the local assessment is very simple. You can't tell me you're running for governor and my ward has not seen you. So how will you win? I have 3 wards in my town, Nibo, Ward 1, 2, 3. If we have not seen you in any of the wards, so for us, you're not running. If we go to the neighboring village, and we have not seen the same aspirant, but we see billboards. So how do we now take you serious? So the Anambra people know those they are voting for today, and they will do the needful.
Mr. Azu and Chinwe, I want to say thank you for being our very first guest today as we look forward to seeing how the election is going to go on. Well, we hope, like you, that everything goes swimmingly, and we are giving the INEC Chairman our best wishes. We already started the show by giving him our blessings this morning, and we're especially very, very curious to see how he will do, but we're hoping for the best. Thank you very much, Mr. Azu.
Let me give this as a takeaway. The INEC Chairman must look at his operational staffs. That's where he has to hold responsible. For him as a person, we don't have any doubt about his credibility.
All right. Mr. Ekena, once again, many thanks. So we appreciate you for coming on, Mr. Ekena, as a member of the Obedient Movement in Anambra State, giving us a bit of update there as we look to what the polls will be for the entirety of today. Now, you're tuned in. You're watching the live coverage of the Anambra gubernatorial elections as the residents of Anambra head out to the polls to decide who will lead the state in the next 4 years. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we return, we have our reporters live across the state to give us updates. Stay with us. Now, you're welcome back. It's our full live coverage of the Anambra State gubernatorial elections as the state takes center stage in Nigeria's democratic theater. Today, one question dominates conversation, and it will be, what will voter actually look like? What will the turnout look like? Because turnout has become the true measure of trust in our electoral system. Despite reforms and improved technology, as well as countless awareness campaigns, Nigerians still remain skeptical. Now, speaking of that turnout, we have our correspondent, Azu, who is live at one of the polling units, polling stations in the local government there in Anambra State. First, Austin, good morning to you, bright and early, 8 a.m. Saturday morning. Where are you, and how far with logistics and turnout?
Okay, good morning, Judith. We are currently at Nnewi South local government area of Anambra State for the live coverage of the ongoing governorship election. The D-Day is today, and of course, Nnewi South has 20 political wards, and they have 297 polling units, 3 rack centers, and it's expected that over 102,000 eligible voters ought to go to the poll today to cast their vote. So earlier on, we were at the local government headquarters where we saw the dispatchment of electoral materials and as well personnel to the various polling units for this election. And currently, we are at Ukpo Ward 2, Unit 001 and Unit 002, where you can see behind me that they are setting up the police station already, and it's expected that the eligible voters will start coming as soon as possible. But however, voting ought to commence exactly 8:30, and accreditation first before voting simultaneously. So I have the PO here to bring us to speed. Chiamaka, okay, bring us to speed. Tell us the level of preparedness.
We are ready for this election. We are well trained for it, and we are here on time and focused to do our work as we are told.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. We have another PO here who will equally bring us to speed. All right, Ngwe. Sorry. All right, okay, bring us to speed. Tell us the level of readiness you are.
We are ready this morning. Good morning. My name is Ibe Okamaka. I'm the PO. Ward 2, 002, Umuhu Central School. We are about to start and we are ready. We, the APO 1, APO 2, and the PO are ready to do the election perfectly. And we pray for successful election.
Thank you very much, Ukamaka. All right, we have some other party agents who are on the ground here to bring us to speed. Okay, let's begin with Michael. Okay, Michael. All right, okay, tell us how are you seeing the level of turnout so far, though election ought to commence exactly 8:30?
I believe that people will turn out very well because we have been doing it before. During the time of Senate election, we have a very big mass turn-up, and this time around, I believe we are going to have the same thing also. Okay,
how will you assess INEC at this point in time?
We have been doing it with them before. We know how we are not be having problem with them. We cooperate with them, and they will also cooperate with us.
But in terms of early arrival of materials.
Oh, glory be to God, they did very well. They come earlier than we expected them to come.
Thank you very much, Mr. Michael. All right, behind me, you can see some police officers on the ground already, and this to ensure that they are able to protect the electoral materials, voters, and of course, INEC ad hoc staff. So we have another party agent here to bring us to speed. Okay, tell us, how will you describe the arrival of INEC to this election?
It was a massive, so they came early, so they are preparing very well. So, and everything is working well. Like I can see that the INEC, they are trying well. They are trying.
Okay, what does this signify for these polling units?
The signification of
the arrival, the very early arrival of INEC staff.
Yeah, it is a massive preparation of everything. So, and we are so happy for that because they arrive on time. So, and the voters they're also coming on time. So, we are not preparing for it.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Okay, we have another party agent here to bring us to speed. Okay, so how will you describe the very early arrival of INEC ad hoc staff for this exercise?
Yeah, we thank INEC in their utmost belief that the election will start as scheduled. So we thank God that, as you see here, it is a defining moment for us, for our democracy, for the people of Anambra State. This polling center you see here is a community-based voting strength. We are like brothers here. We believe that we'll not have much problem. We commend INEC for this earlier start. This has shown that our democracy has improved. We thank God for this.
Okay, thank you very much. However, from what we gathered from the INEC ad hoc staff, that this particular polling unit, Ward 2001 and 2, have 500 eligible voters who will come here to cast their vote simultaneously, and the Unit 002 as well, over 500 eligible voters are expected to come here this morning from now till the closing time for the police station. So back to you in the studio, Judith.
Also, many thanks for that update, Austin Azu there. Let's also bring in Victor Mbadikwe, News Central's correspondent as well, who is on ground in Anambra as we wait for polling units to open at 8:30. Victor, is everything ready for that opening for 8:30?
I can hear you. Please repeat yourself.
I was asking about whether everything is ready for voting to start at 8:30 at the polling unit that you're at.
It's currently with my location. This is a community school, so in Anambra, and we have about at least 3 polling units here. And well, of course, they're still setting up. I'm pretty sure in the next few minutes, all of that would be done with. But you just so you know that everything seems ready in the next couple of minutes. And of course, I did, of course, visit some other places where, of course, we see how similar setups. But again, you know how elections can be sometimes. When elections are supposed to open for 8, sometimes it begins really at maybe past 8 or 8:30. But the truth is, if you look around, it's almost like a beehive. We've got a lot of persons here already, you know, getting set to carry out their franchise. Right on that board, voters, registered voters, checking their names to see if they're eligible to vote. So clearly, this particular polling center in Anambra is set to go. Of course, I have election observers around me. Jake Ekpele is also here. Jake Ekpele is here, who will be giving us assessment of what he's seen so far. I also have something Itodo very close to me as well, of Yaga Africa, who also will be giving us his own assessment. But let's start with Jake Ekpele this morning. Of course, election observers are here to ensure that every stakeholder, whether the police, whether the INEC, even voters themselves, are professional in the conduct of this election. Good morning, Jake Ekpele.
Hi. Morning, Victor.
It must have been really, really tough. I mean, in the last few days.
Well,
a whole lot. So let's start. What's your assessment so far? So let's start with your assessment so far, what you've seen in the last few hours, or maybe a prelude to this election itself.
Well, some interesting development. First, we saw that the presence of security operatives way before 7 o'clock, which is a very good development. Then at 7:07, we saw the presence of INEC. They came in with the resources and trying to set up. And we've seen them fast track the process. Hopefully, people are coming in. My concern has always been voter apathy. Because once we have an election and there are no people to vote, then it will be mere selection, and we don't want to see that. So we've seen a number of voters coming. This is a very important polling station, sometimes very volatile. So we're seeing interesting development, the presence of security and all that. And sometimes I think the security operatives needs to know that there are places you do show of force and there are places you don't, because that will aggravate the situation. And so reasonable conduct of themselves, security operatives I'm speaking, will really help us. Of course, the presence of the media, your media outlet and other media outlets are here. So we've seen enthusiasm, we have seen some level of, interest to participate in the process. Hopefully, that will be the same as we go into the day. Now, for us at TAF Africa, we have set out the parameter in line with our colleagues in the EUSDGN district. And so we set out some parameters that we want to see. Number one is opening. what will be the opening like? Will they logistical arrangement? Will they deploy on time? Will INEC people be on time? You know, but this is just one polling station. There are several other polling stations that is ongoing, and so we want to make sure that the story remains the same. So in terms of opening, there is some remarkable progress that we've seen that we can report. Then the next thing is accreditation. You know, we want to see and measure accreditation, you know, how the people will be accredited to participate in the process. The third is voting. We want to see the voting. And this is also very important because we want to see the demography, you know, in terms of voting patterns. We want to see persons with disability. Interestingly, I will report to say that we are guided by data at South Africa the way we deploy. And surprisingly, not surprising though, our data reveals that there's only one person with albinism in this whole polling unit. And I went to polling unit 10. They do have magnifying glasses, which is a good development in terms of resource distribution. Now, the other thing we're also looking at is the end of poll. You know, where will it end? And then, of course, my constituency, inclusivity. Now, if you take a look, if your camera can pan, you take a look at this, you see they place the ballot boxes very high. Definitely is not accessible. And so we have an arrangement with them to say that if a person on a wheelchair, bring down the box so that they can vote. But also, there's a caveat. Make sure that all the political party agents are aware that that's what you're doing. Otherwise, it will translate to ballot snatching. Yeah. So the last interesting parameter we have set for measuring this election is the collation. What happens at the collation center? You know, are there results for falsification? Are there manipulation of the results? And of course, the big elephant in the room, technology. Will the technology work? And will it be, as a result, will it work because they want it to work? You know, so those are some of the things that we're trying to set as parameter to measure this election. And of course, we can take them one after the other. You know, logistic has always been a problem when it comes to monitoring election. Logistic has always been a problem. And so if they don't deploy on time, it will create this sense of insecurity, volatility, you know. But if they deploy on time, definitely it douses the tension. So in this polling unit, there is some critical element of early deployment. And so hopefully that will be the case across board, you know. Once there is an early deployment and people are sure that they can walk in and cast their vote, it sort of stabilizes the situation. And so it's important that we have this trend across board. Of course, I'm going to go to other polling unit sessions and see that we have the same thing as we have here. For here, relatively speaking, it is peaceful. Relatively speaking, we've seen our security operatives conduct themselves in a more honorable manner. We are seeing the electorate conducting themselves honorably as well. So hopefully there will be a departure from the 10% voter turnout to our projected 20%. You know, I can tell you one thing about Anambra people from the interactions. We've been here for the past months. You know, the training, deploying, assessing. They are peaceful people. They are peace-loving people. Many of them are too comfortable to get involved in things that would drain their energy or spill their blood. And hopefully that will be the case throughout the day. Let's also send very important warning to politicians. Do not create unnecessary tension. I think there are channels by which you can lay your grievances Many of you have the numbers of the national commissioners on INEC. I know that National Commissioner Kunle Ajayi is on ground, and a couple of other national commissioners, plus the rake. Let me talk about the rake. We have had interactions with the rake, and she kept assuring us everything is in place to ensure free, fair, credible, and inclusive election. We will know that by the midday because those things will begin to play out. But definitely, if we go by what she's been saying, we can say for sure that we will have a good election. Now, this election is pivotal because it's a litmus test for the current INEC chair. We've had interesting development coming from him personally. He has made contact with me personally, and we had a good chat. The interesting development is that he had approved for us to have 25 deployment of sign language interpreters. Yeah, but thank you for the good work that News Central is doing, and Kayode, kudos.
Well, thank you so much. Of course, again, we're having Jake still with us much later. He's, of course, a very senior major election observer here. So, going by the positives he's highlighted here already, yeah, we do hope that that trend continues, and hopefully at the end of the day we'll have a very good turnout and generally a good election. So that's it from me here, Judith.
All right, Victor, I must say thank you for that update there. Victor with Jacob Pele, who is the coordinator for TAF Africa, giving us a bit of update when it comes to inclusion with PWDs, persons living with disabilities, for voting, as voting is about to commence in Anambra State. Victor, once again, thank you. We switch gears now as we bring in virtually one of our guests. He is Honorable Barrister Titus N. Akpodu, who is the Anambra State Solution Marshal. He's part of the team at the Anambra State Solution Marshal. Honorable, many thanks for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Let's talk about, Good morning. As Anambra sets out to decide one of the biggest tests of elections, we have an incumbent and we have 15 other candidates who are vying for the top office in Anambra State. But what comes to fore is not only INEC's preparedness when it comes to transparency and accountability, but also security. And one of them is logistics in delivering materials. Now, we do know that Anambra State Marshal, Transport Marshal, they are one of those who have aided INEC. So let's talk about that in terms of the hard-to-reach areas and the hot spots in the state. Are you confident with security and the delivery of materials to those zones?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Anambra State, from this section, is a very peaceful state. We always believe in getting or doing things right. From the mobilization, the INEC and the government did, we have over about 60,000 security agencies here ready to assist to make sure that the election is peaceful, not necessary to intimidate the Anambrans. We understood that fact and we are working in that line. And as the State Marshal General of the Anambra State Solution Marshal, we've also briefed the transport sector that are accredited to work with the INEC to ensure that they are the distribution center early enough so to make sure that the materials get to all the areas and then the voting starts very early. We are well prepared for that. I know as of yesterday, most of the areas or most of all those zones, the hinterland, they've gotten their materials by yesterday evening. I know by this morning, distribution to the polling units has started. Some of the INEC officials, as you can see, have arrived some of the polling units ready to commence work. I know from 8:30 upwards that the voting will start in earnest. And come to think of it, in Anambra State, over 2.3 8 million people registered according to the INEC records, and over 2.7 million people collected the PVC. That shows a remarkable preparedness, people willingness to speak through their vote. All that is needed right now is for the INEC, the security agencies, and the body, that's the INEC, to make sure that they did not breach that trust. People now trying to regain on them, because you know that trust is the life wire of democracy. Once that one fails, automatically the whole thing will be in shambles. So Anambra people are very optimistic that this election that Anambra decided today, it will speak volume. It will also be a litmus test for what will be seen in other areas. In 2023, Anambra State is the first place they used BVAS to conduct the election, discarding the earlier used smart card reader. Today, again, the new INEC National Chairman, the prof himself, is in legal criminal. Joash Amupitan will be national assignment, right, will be up to. And I bet you it's for them to instill and restore that trust. And because once there is trust, automatically there will be turnout. And Anambra people are ready to speak today with one voice to show that we are matured enough and we are politically matured and democratically alive.
We seem to have lost you in there. Our guest is none other than Honorable Barrister Titus N. Nkpodu, who is with the Anambra State Solution Marshal, those who are aiding with transportation with sensitive materials across the polling units across the 21 local government areas in the state. You're watching the live coverage of the Anambra State elections. I am Judith Atibi. Mazino Appeal is with me at the table here as we are going in depth on analysis as we await for polling units to open and for voting to commence across the state.
Mm-hmm. I will tell you something, however, it's that this election has so much hope behind it, and everybody we've spoken to this morning has simply just reiterated that. They're hoping that everything goes right, whether it's security, whether it's the sensitive materials, and that actually portends a very good thing. I'm thinking, because it's positive. It's positive. I know for 2023 it was hinged on the participation of the youth, and that gave it its flair. But for 2025 here, this governorship election, it's the hope that actually seems to stand out for me. I hear we have our guest back with us now again. Sir, you're welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us. Would like you to please, if you do not mind, tell us what you think about the level of hope that the electorate seem to be exhibiting today. Well, at least as far as we can see, we've seen most people tell that they want this to go without hitch. So what's your take on that level of hope?
Anambra people, just like I earlier said, we are very peaceful and always like to deliver and set a good precedent for others to emulate. We all believe that the INEC, which is the body that will safeguard that vote or initiate the process, will live up to the expectation. We expected that they will be at the polling units on time to commence the voting and ensure that every person, every eligible voter is well accredited and ensure that they vote. They will also make sure that the results are well counted and transmitted, and then the winner announced. We also have the hope that the security agencies will also work to protect the people. In terms of security, the government of the day did very well in making sure that the environment is quite clement. We are sure and optimistic and hope that things will go on very well.
Yes, indeed. Barrister Akpodu. Barrister Akpodu, I want to say thank you very much for joining us to give us your take on the way things are running currently. And let's continue to, well, hope on that hope and see things turn out good after today's elections. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming on. We switch gears now as we will be just moving away slightly from Anambra State's polls. Now, we do know that the polls are waiting to commence. We'll be giving you live updates for that. But first, let's go on a short break. When we return, we switch gears to Trump and Nigeria and the allegations of genocide. After the break, stay with us.
U.S. President Donald Trump's recent accusation that Nigeria is committing Christian genocide has sent shockwave across the diplomatic world. What may sound like another fiery Trump soundbite could, in truth, carry serious geopolitical weight. His comments are already shaping conversations around human rights intervention and Western influence, reopening a sensitive debate about Africa's right to self-determination in global politics. Now, here at home, Nigerians are torn between outrage and uneasy reflection. But beyond the noise, there's a deeper question. When a superpower labels an African nation as a perpetrator of genocide, what does it mean for sovereignty, for diplomacy, and for the delicate balance of power between Africa and the West?
Well, joining us to explore those implications is first Adeni Ukunu, who is the public affairs analyst. Also joining us is
Alexander von Rugen. My apologies there. He's also joining us as well to have this very interesting conversation.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Adeni, let me start with...
We've lost Adeni, unfortunately. But we still got Alexander. Alexander, good morning. Thank you very much. Judith, please do continue.
Alexander, I would like to ask, first of all, where your position lies, in these allegations of genocide and, Nigeria's response and the history behind this. Do you see Trump having, enough basis, to point this to genocide, or is there more to it in terms of political undertones at play here?
Well, I think, first of all, Trump hasn't accused Nigeria as a government of genocide. He's saying genocide is happening in Nigeria. And let's, you have to understand, logic and reason dictates if something quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, why don't we just call it a duck? Why do we talk around it? This term genocide is a heinous term, but by definition, look at what the definition of genocide is. It's the deliberate and systematic killing or persecution of a large number of people from a particular nation, national or ethnic group, with the aim of destroying that group or nation. Now, are Christians being killed and murdered and systematically attacked in Nigeria? Yes. Are they being killed in large numbers? Yes. Are they being targeted on specific Christian holidays, which the targets and the attacks seem to be coordinated with? Yes. So it kind of isolates the fact that Christians are being targeted. Yes, they're being killed. Now, we all know that this is not specific to Christians. Many Muslims have been killed in the country as well, which makes it even a graver situation for Nigeria. So I think the politicians in Nigeria have to accept their own shortcomings here, accept a term, and accept the critique they're receiving as maybe an olive branch for help instead of denying a word. Let's focus on fixing the problem as opposed to denying responsibility for it.
To subvert its sovereignty? No. But let's talk beyond the facts that you have just stated now regarding genocide, whether Christian or Muslim. Let's talk about the way and the manner in which these expressions were given by the U.S. president. These are more than just words. It goes beyond that when it has to do with a superpower and a sovereign nation in Africa. The question is, how will this affect relationship between the U.S. and Nigeria going forward?
Well, Nigeria has already responded. President Tinubu, initially, his reaction was of denial. And there was more of a concern of sovereign incursion into Nigeria by a superpower. I clearly don't think that's the case. And the narrative has also changed now that it's become an international concern for Nigeria's security, and they welcome assistance. I think that's where you're going to see the switch in narrative from the opposition to Nigeria being attacked as a sovereign entity. Let's take a moment here. How did we get to this point? First of all, these atrocities have been going on with Boko Haram for about 15 years now. The world has been watching, and there's been an outcry from the Christian community internationally for help because the government of Nigeria doesn't seem to be doing enough to stop it. So now the world is being focused with the media and, of course, the comments from President Trump. The comments hurt. There's a tone of aggression there. President Trump has been known not to have the best bedside manner when he speaks, but he also deals in affirmative action. And when he says something typically other than the past diplomatic rhetoric of other politicians, his actions speak for themselves as well. So I think that's where the attention is now being focused and why we have this reaction. But if it's managed properly, I think this could be a win-win situation for Nigeria and President Trump, who tends to be a peacemonger, not a warmonger.
More to get the Nobel Peace Prize and the snub by the panel there. Let me switch guests. Adeni Kunu is with us. Adeni, a very good morning to you. You've had the reaction from Alexander here, our guest, who said that this is a time for a diplomatic dialogue and also for Nigeria not to deny these cases of targeted attacks, but more seek assistance in battling this type of attacks and terrorism on our shores. But I do have to ask you, Adeni, from your own standpoint, do you see the body language between both countries being hostile or one of where Trump is, opening his arms and extending somewhat assistance instead of asking for something?
Well, I need to make this clear that there is no way anybody will come into your house if your doors are not open. For majority of people who have rodents and crawling insects anywhere in their house or their homes, it's because at some point somebody opened the door, at some point somebody didn't latch the door properly. And immediately those things happen, whatever takes place afterwards, you need to take full responsibility for it. Now, let me give us this picture. There can never be any hostility between Nigeria and the United States of America. But the point of fact remains that as long as certain persons in Nigeria have chosen the path of wickedness, irresponsibility, and lack of accountability and corruption, the U.S. will never look away from such things. Do not forget that beyond the intervention of the United States of America, or the fact that they're talking about the genocidal deaths of many people in the country, there's also economic interest at stake here. For the past 10, 15 years, don't forget, officially we unveiled Boko Haram in 2009. So appropriately so, I could say, well, this is like the 16th year of Boko Haram's incursion into certain parts of the country. But what is needful for us to understand is the monies that have been expended, the monies and ammunition that the United States of America continues to pour into this country, most of these monies have not been accounted for. Most of the promises made by the leadership of this country to deal with insurgency has not been done. Also, listen clearly here, that in the course of all these problems, we have had people in the government of Muhammadu Buhari who have sworn allegiance at some point or the other, even to Boko Haram. The former information communication technology person, Ali Issa Pantami, had conversations and some kind of allegiance to insurgents in the country. Ali Modu Sheriff has accused the current president in 2020 of being the one who actually sponsored some persons that are within the rank and file of Boko Haram. I spoke with an assistant director, retired, of the Department of State Services in Nigeria, and he told me that while he was in service and they were looking for one of the top Boko Haram members, they found him in the house of the current vice president of Nigeria. Now, whilst those people may actually be one way or the other not carrying ammunition with Boko Haram, the religious sentiment that has made them continuously give support to Boko Haram is totally unacceptable in this country. Let me also make this clear, because this is a global platform. This country is supposed to be a secular state. In 1999, when Nigeria returned to democracy, meaning the Fourth Republic, many of the Northwest and Northeastern states chose the path of Sharia. Nigeria is a secular country. In the news yesterday, many of them are saying that they don't want to give up Sharia. This is supposed to be a secular country. Part of what can help this problem go away is ensuring that this country maintains its secular status in terms of religious affiliation of people. Virtually all the states of the Northeast and Northwest have, some states have 50% Muslim, 50% Christian, whereas they are making laws that will be willingly binding on Christian in those states. So you find out that when they talk about genocide itself, it seems many people do not even understand. And I'm happy that my other guest actually started by defining what genocide means. So even if I want to be generous enough and remove the killing of Christians, why will people that do not have the empowerment by law continuously kill people? So for the US and Nigeria, our relationship will not be strained. Okay. But the reality is, for this relationship to be sustained, we have to do the right thing.
All right, Mr. Adeniku, my apologies, I have to come in here because we are currently covering the Anambra governorship elections. So we will be going in and out to see what our updates are from our correspondents who are on ground to bring us more information. So we will do that right now. Do stay put. We're coming back with a very interesting question here regarding the AU's commitment and how they play into this with the statement that they have put out regarding the Trump invasion threats. But let's turn to our correspondent in Anambra State now, and that's Victor Mbadikwe, who's going to be giving us updates. I hear that the voting has started. Victor, if you're there, do tell us exactly what's happening now. You did send a message telling that the voting and voters have started to vote. Give us more, please. What's happening? Oh, Victor, apologies there. We'll have to stop you there because I think we had his audio just a bit. Perhaps maybe he could go on. Okay, Victor, I'm being told that we have a problem with your audio, so we'll come back to you eventually. Our apologies here. Let me come back to our gentlemen guests. We have Adeni Kunu and, of course, Mr. Alexander Van Rugen. We're talking about the Trump-Nigeria issue here. Now, Alexander, let me come to you. The AU put out a statement only recently telling about or reinforcing Nigeria's sovereignty. However, from before, one has to ask the question how they played in. If they are a nation that was set with 55 African countries and they were bestowed with the responsibility to actually promote peace in Africa, this threat, in quote, as it's been called, is not one just against Nigeria's sovereignty. It actually impugns the AU as an organization. So how do you think the AU should play this forward, Mr. Alexander Van Rugen? Alexander, yes, go ahead, please.
This is not just a Nigerian problem. You've got borders with Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. And Boko Haram has been moving across those borders. I'm sure a lot of them are running across these borders right now with this threat coming from America. So it's going to need AU cooperation in dealing with. I might add also, Cameroon is already cooperating with America. There's about 300 U.S. forces on the ground in Cameroon, specifically to train the Cameroonian soldiers to deal with Boko Haram and to gather intel and use U.S. technology in dealing with them. So this is not a sudden response. This has been in the making for some time. If the AU is defensive, one thing that will happen with U.S. intervention, there's going to be a general auditing. As my friend discussed, where has the money gone to for past U.S. support for weapons, military, and general assistance in Nigeria? I think there's going to be an audit, big audit coming, and I think a lot of people are going to be intimidated by that because it's going to expose a lot of corruption. And no one wants that if they're one of the corruptors. The inefficiencies or inadequacies of why this hasn't been dealt with in the past, again, there may be different motives. Just lack of efficiency could be one, but perhaps the problems are deeper than that. And one thing that happens when the U.S. does get involved is this gets exposed. I might add, Trump never threatened to invade Nigeria. He threatened to deal with the problem if Nigeria can't. And he said, you need to react on this quickly. So we've been watching you for 15 years. This isn't the first time we threatened sanctions, but now we're going to hit hard. We're going to hit you in the wallet. We're going to stop all aid to Nigeria unless this matter is dealt with right now, because it's a serious matter.
Couple of the things here from the AU's statement and how they're positioning themselves. And maybe you two gentlemen will tell us exactly how you think, if this is coming across as defensive or cooperative. The AU administrative body put out this statement, and they emphasized Nigeria's sovereignty. The statement reminded that Nigeria is a long-standing AU member who plays a key role in regional stability. The AU also warned that framing Nigeria's complex security challenges solely in religious terms could destabilize communities and hinder effective solutions. So let me ask Mr. Kunu, does this sound defensive? And what do you think this would mean for relationships between Africa and the U.S. going forward?
I call that airy platitude. Airy platitude because the same African Union have not been able to speak to the problems of the leadership in Cameroon, where one man has been there for over 40 years. The same AU will still be accommodating Cameroon at its meetings, when it should have spoken that, hey, you cannot continue to alter your constitution and mess up the lives of Cameroonians. The same AU has not been able to speak to the issue of the Yadema family in Togo, has been there for over 50 years. The AU has not been able to speak strongly to the issue of undemocratic practices in a place like Uganda. The AU could not speak strongly to the issue in Tanzania, where all the opposition leaders have been imprisoned. So the AU, to me, at this point, is a joke. The AU has only spoken because the need to speak is here. Let me tell us this, and to be very frank. If the United States of America cuts its support to Africa, Africa will be engulfed in war in less than 1 month, because the US have been able to enable that many African countries remain to an extent stable. But what is expected of the leadership of these many African countries has been falling short of. The problem in Nigeria that the AU is responding to is expected. But as I said earlier, it is airy platitude. At this point, the AU should have spoken. Show me the statement, please. I need you to help me here. If my research is not strong enough, show me the strong-worded statement that the AU has made when Nigerians were killed in certain churches in Owo, when certain persons were killed in a church on Christmas Day. Show me the statement that the African Union has made to condemn this killing. So the AU is just being hypocritical in speaking when the US has decided. And let's even talk about it. And I'm very happy for what my guest is re-emphasizing here. He has said it more than 3 times, that the US has not said it is invading Nigeria. The US said, we're going to deal with the terrorists that have been killing. Why is it that the presidency and many other political leaders in Nigeria are suddenly uncomfortable that the government of the United States has decided to destroy the terrorists? This is a country where terrorists will be going This is a country where terrorists will be going to certain places in communities and be having meetings. This is a country where the traditional rulers of communities will be giving terrorists traditional titles in Nigeria, and nothing happens to them. This is the place where terrorists will be going to markets, will be going to open places, will be taking gas, will be taking food from the market, and they will walk away and nobody does anything to them. This is a place where the political leadership in communities will be attending wedding ceremonies with these terrorists, and nobody is talking. Excuse me, that's not being a joke here. It means that some of these people are in cahoots with these terrorists. So if the U.S. Yes, please.
Yes,
please.
I know that you have a lot to say, but very quickly, because we're pressed for time. China is also waiting on this as well, saying that Nigeria is a sovereign state and Trump has no right to invade or even step into the matters. But more importantly, we know that Trump's diplomacy is transactional. Is there more than it meets the eye? And the question is, why now? Is this going to be transactional? Do they really care about Christians, or are they just hamping on an opportunity because the Nigerian government and the AU left their house open?
Let me put it on record here for the world to listen. Many African countries would never have been liberated had the US not intervened in the Second World War. So when China is speaking, China is only speaking because now it is getting certain economic benefit from Africa. When Africa was in subterfuge of colonialism, where was China? So I'm simply saying this here that the US has bragging rights. But for the US, even Europe would never have been free from the war and the killing machines of Hitler. So let me say the African Charter that emancipated most of the African countries was enabled by the US. China is only saying what it is saying because of its economic inroads and the belt and whatever road that it's doing. So I'm saying here that if a country has decided to eliminate enemies, the same China that is talking will never allow Muslims to mess around in China. The Uyghur Muslims in China, China has never allowed them to do any nonsense regarding terrorism. So why would China act as if it doesn't understand what is happening in the northeast of Nigeria? China is only saying that. As far as I'm concerned, if we need to collaborate properly with a country, excuse me, every world power has certain transactions and certain benefits to gain from countries they're going to. China is talking. 40% of all exploration in Sudan it belongs to the Chinese government.
My apologies,
so
Mr. Denny. We are at the top of the hour. Unfortunately, we would love to stay and listen to these very interesting facts and also claims that you're giving, but we have to end now. So let's say our thank yous to you, Mr. Alexander von Rugen, and also to you, Mr. Denny Kunu, for joining for this very interesting conversation. We wish we had the entire hour for it, but unfortunately we have to go now because we're still monitoring the Anambra elections. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Let's switch gears now to the gubernatorial elections happening in Anambra State. Our correspondents are live and ready to go, starting with Victor Mbadikwe as he informs us that voting has commenced. Victor, well done. What's the latest with you so far? Whilst we wait for Victor's audio, let's bring in Austin Azu, who's also our correspondent live in Anambra. Victor, location and updates. Situational, Austin, if you can hear me. Austin Azu, right there. Austin, what's the situational report there? Have voting commenced?
All right, okay, we are at Ward 2. Units 013 and units 014, and behind us you can see voting is ongoing, and it goes with the accreditation and simultaneously across the same way voting system. So we saw some individuals who have done their votes, and thereafter some of them left this place. But however, there's one particular case here that's of concern. We have John Paul Chidozie. John Paul, yes. Well done, sir. Okay, you are John Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, bring us to speed. Tell us the voting process so far.
As you can see, everything is moving very well, and people are voting their choice. That is one thing I like about this election. People are voting their choice. There's no force here. You should vote here, you should vote to the other party. Everybody is voting according to their choice and what they believe in. So everything is moving very well, as you can see. You can see them there, you can see them here. Everything is okay.
Okay, have you done your voting?
I'm here to do my own. I'm on the line, I'm on the queue already. Yeah.
Okay, what has been some of those who have voted? What has been their experience like?
No, as I said before, everything is okay. Nobody has complained of any violence or something like that. Everybody is okay.
All right. We have Chimezie Uzo Chuku. Okay, bring us to speed. Have you done your voting, or what happened?
No, I haven't voted. I wanted to vote, but I couldn't be accredited by the BVAS. I was asked to exercise a little patience in order for them to try again. But beyond that, everything is going on smoothly in this place. There's no violence. Everyone coming here is voting their conscience. And the process is, as it is now, very peaceful and smooth. Thank you.
Okay, now that you have the challenge with your PVC, so to what extent will you wait for it to be ratified?
Until the voting time is over, but I'm very much optimistic that I'm going to vote today. It may be a case of weather or maybe network or something like that. So I'm going to wait as long as the voting time lasts.
Okay, thank you, Chimezie. All right, we are told that in this polling unit, we are expected to have over 213 eligible voters at polling unit 013. At polling unit 014, is expected that over 158 persons are expected to come to this place to come and do their voting. So we are on the field to monitor what's happening across the local government area here in Nnewi South local government area of Anambra State. So back to you, Judith.
Many thanks, Osim. Appreciate you for that update. Let's switch gears now. Do we have Victor Mbadikwe, who is also live in Anambra? Let's see if voting have commenced at the polling station he is at. Victor Mbadikwe, there you are. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, Judith.
All right. I can see behind you voting has started. Talk to me. Walk us through the process.
So this is polling unit 1 here in Amobia South local government area, precisely a community primary school. So accreditation and voting is happening simultaneously. So when voters come in here, they quickly have to check on that wall. If he can pound through that, you can notice that they're all checking if their names are on that register, valid register. So once their names are there, they all come back to this port. There are 2 BVAS here for registration. That's the bi-modal voter accreditation system being used here just to make the work faster and easier. So where their fingerprint is checked and their facial identity is also checked, for verification or for, So after that, they all come back to this presiding officer here, if you can see that clearly, where he issues them their ballot papers, and after which you can see this man here going straight down to the cubicle where he will go cast his vote. Now, once he's done, he's back here again, because there has to be an indelible ink placed on his index finger to show, to prove that he has voted, just to, to avoid multiple voting. So clearly, so far, it's been, and it's very simple and easy process. Of course, I do have election observers still very here with us, taking notes of what is really happening here. I'm sure they'll be giving us their own assessment as to what they've seen here so far. But clearly, security agents are also here. We have the police operative, we have NSCDC here as well. We have FRS here as well. We have basically a lot of them right here just to provide, the security needed. But let's talk to Sintam Bamalu of Yaga Africa to give us exactly how an assessment, what she's seen here so far. Very good morning to you, man. If you don't mind, please face the cameraman, please. Good morning. Well, the election began just about 15-20 minutes ago, if I'm not mistaken. So what's your assessment so far with the system? Are there positives to take here? Are there improvements to be made?
Well, I think first there are some positives because we had earlier commencement compared to last elections. You know, one of the issues we had raised in our pre-election assessment is the fact that Anambra has a perennial late commencement of polls. And one of the tests for this election is the efficiency test, the ability to comment on time. As at 7:15 a.m., we already had personnel and material present in this community primary school. This is Amobia 1 in Oka South, LGA in the state. So that's a positive for me. And also the fact that we had from 8:30, the officials started talking about the procedure, the PO addressed the people on how to start the process. And some minutes after 8:30, the process started. And I do believe that that is a positive for this community. One thing to note for me is there's a little negative is the turnout. Or it's already 9:10 a.m. This community primary school has 3 polling units. We have POOs, polling units 1,001, 002, and 010. Together, cumulatively, we ought to have about 3,300 and something registered voters voting here today. Because this polling unit behind us already has 1,454 or so voters. But if you look at the queue, you barely have 10 people on this queue. If you look at the other polling units here, you barely have 10 people on each of them. And so my worry is that if we follow this pattern till 2:30 when polling should end, we may have low turnout. And this has been a challenge in Anambra. Anambra historically has low voter turnout. I'm hoping those watching, if you're in Anambra State, come out with your permanent voters card and vote. But on a positive note, the BVAS so far has been working. I mean, one of the polling units 002, there was a little issue, one of the BVAS, it was not verifying PVCs on time, but I saw the official switch BVAS to use the other to verify the voter, which is good. So it's good that we have more than one BVAS at different polling units, because that enables quick authentication of voters. We have political party agents present. I'm hoping that we'll have more agents, because for this election we have 16 parties contesting. And for political parties, I do believe that if a polling unit like this, if this community school has one of the highest number of registered voters in one location, that you should have present here. But if you go around, you don't see that level of representation of the different parties contesting. And so that's also something I'm observing. I'm hoping parties deploy their agents, because your agents ought to be your eyes and your ears at the polling unit. But all in all, so far, it looks like the process is relatively peaceful. Security personnel are present at the different polling units in this community primary school. Voters trickling in one after the other. I hope this BVAS functions successfully through the day. I'm happy to see that it's working so far, and we're looking forward to what is going on at different locations today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Cynthia Mbamalu of Yaga Africa. Thank you so much. So, Judith, let me take you around the voters themselves. So, they're probably going to share their experience with us. So that they could please come to us, sir, if you don't mind. That they just please face the camera. So that they tell us what's your name, sir?
Mokwe Felix.
Okay. How has it been for you so far? Have you voted?
Yes.
Was it so? How has it been for you? How has the voting process been for you?
No, there's no problem. I just entered and vote. Cast my vote.
Well, I understand that people are supposed to be so much here, but very few people are coming out to vote. Is there a reason for this?
I feel that they will still come. People will still come.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Let's move across to the cubicle and see exactly what it looks like, and perhaps we'll get to talk to more persons. Okay, so this is a cubicle where they'll have to cast their votes, and some of them are still waiting in line to, of course, cast their ballots. We get to see how to talk to them as soon as possible. But that's it, Judith. Basically, it's been the process has been a little very seamless, except for a couple of issues. But that, of course, was clearly sorted out almost immediately.
All right. Austin, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us. Austin, no, I beg your pardon. Victor Mbadikwe, there we go. Victor Mbadikwe, live there in Anambra, just giving us a bit of update as voting has commenced at the polling station where is at. Let's come back to the studio. We're going to be looking at the data and trends and also precedents just before the elections. All that's been leading up to these elections and what we preemptively expect from these elections as well. But first, joining us live here in the studio is Abdulateef Ahmed. He's the head of the digital research desk with News Central Television, and also one of, he likes to call himself Uber Geek or something. Uber Geek algorithm, is that it? Yeah, there we go, yeah.
Good morning.
And good morning to you.
Let's make use of that big break now, shall we? A lot has happened from before now, and I'm not talking about before the day, I'm talking preceding the different administrations that we have had in Anambra State. It's been pretty monotonous. It's been the same party leading up until now, and I'm wondering what chances there lies in for this election. Are we going to see the same trend? And if we are, what are the factors that will lead to that?
Okay. Anambra has been an interesting case from the start of the return of Nigeria to democracy. When we started in 1999, it was PDP. We had the governor who was PDP, the next governor PDP, and thirdly PDP. After which we started having APGA, and so like the fourth iteration. So far, it looks like a lot of Anambrarians are invested in APGA. However, there will be a lot of factors that will determine if they are moving their loyalty from APGA to some other parties. Some will rely on how much work has been done by Soludo, how much he's connected to the grassroots, the loyalty of they have to the party itself, what they hope to gain. Because sometimes some things are mostly symbolic. We have chosen to be on this path, and so shall we be. So. It's a mix of so many things. However, what has been my joy for this election largely is in the run-up to the election, we didn't see violence, we didn't see, unnecessary mudslinging. It has been generally...
It was rather neat. There wasn't any of that, which is very peculiar.
Unusual,
exactly.
That's a good sign for me. Again, Anambra has had a lot of high level of registered voters, but in terms of turnout, lately we've seen that the turnout for voting has been on the low. For example, the last election we had just about 10% of 2.8 million people coming out to vote. In the previous one, it was 16, so there was a decline. I'm looking at, a lot of factors now. I'm thinking, considering the fact that things are a little more peaceful now. There's deployment of security, and political parties are not on each other's neck as it used to be. I'm thinking that we could have between 18 to 20% turnout.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've seen a steady decline of turnout at the polls and the off-cycle elections, whether at the local government level as well as state government levels. We've also seen with Edo and now Anambra, as we wait to see what the exit polls will look like, there's also a lot to be discussed when it comes to INEC's preparedness and whether that would also play with the turnout. But very quickly, I'm being informed that we have another guest joining us. We have with us Bukola Idowu. He's a team lead at Kimpact Development Initiative, one of the election observers there currently in the Situation Room for Kimpact Development Initiative. Mr. Idowu, it's good to have you join us this morning. Good morning to you. We will try to establish connection with him. Mr. Idowu, if you're with us, good morning.
We might still need to work on that connection.
Mr. Idowu, if you can hear me, please help us to unmute your device. Good morning to you.
Unmute. You're muted. Yes, you have to unmute, Mr. Idowu, if you are... If he isn't frozen. I think we'll come back to that, unfortunately. I have a follow-up question to that, Abdulateef. Now, these factors that you talk about, I'm wondering if one of these factors could be the demographic of people who we might be seeing voting today. How much impact would that have on the turnout? APGA seems to be a very traditional type of party for Anambra State. As you can see, the trend from since before. Last year, or rather 2 years ago, 2023, we saw the rise of a different kind of electorate, the voters, the young people, and it was Eastern-driven. So I'm wondering whether that has any role to play here in the choice that will be made today by that demographic of people.
Yeah, largely. I didn't see much of mobilization from Peter Obi in Anambra State ahead of this election. But, hold on. But, yes.
Let his brain work now.
Yeah, but people who have made up their minds, it's difficult for you to change their minds. There's a demographic, especially the urban, smart urban people who are looking to vote for, Peter Obi, sentiment of Peter Obi, not because of the candidate, the governorship candidate of Labour Party, but because we have this liking or love for Peter Obi. So the LP candidate may glean some votes from that. When I talk about mobilization, you have to go to the grassroots, local government by local government, ward by ward, make the election almost like, I wouldn't say a do or die affair, but make it like the most important election.
Rooted.
Yes, rooted. Make it like the most important election ever. I didn't see that in Edo State. And you saw how it went. So I wanted to see something very organic, not just razzmatazz for the, for the TVs and radios. Grassroots led. I want to hear from the, from the streets. Let's see that passion-driven kind of campaign. However, be that as it may, that amount of mobilization that I've seen so far may not break the ice, may not, really move people as much as we expect. So it may upset Soludo's expectation, Abga's expectation, but not as much as I would have expected.
I want to go further with that, but I'm sure Judith has...
No, because I know that I was seeing him, that's the person of Mr. Peter Obi, through support behind the ADC candidate, and that's Valentine Okibo, if I get that correctly. We saw him really galvanize behind closed, not just behind closed doors, but also at every time he made stops, and we could see that on X, on his social media platforms as well, and every campaign stop that he had, especially in places like Oka and other points or local government areas that are very important in swaying the elections, he was there to fully throw support behind him. So I do not know whether that plays in terms of Labour Party or ADC and what the coalition is, but I know that he had support with Valentine. You're going to say something.
Good, yes. Now, what do you say about the support he gives Valentine if there's no synergy between Labour Party and ADC? The assumption is, because I am campaigning for the ADC guy, I don't need to mention Labour Party. There has to be an understanding. There are people who you do not need to campaign to them. They say, okay, this man is in this party, and I'm voting for anything along this party line.
So there was no drive to direct his following
from this to this.
Exactly.
So this can be challenging.
Okay.
Even if it's negligent, you can say 10% of your base.
Yeah, but
it can shift things.
Yeah, because when we had the guest earlier, and that's Mr. Akumchene, who is a member of the Obedient Movement, he was saying, and I think that's the reason why I kept saying very vocal about this isn't about party, this is about a candidate of. Do you think that language is also changing as well in terms of when it comes to endorsement with Peter Obi, who we must put out here that this has nothing to do with opposition, but pretty much because he is a former, he was a former candidate, a former governor of the state, and so to some extent his endorsement of whoever candidate there counts, right?
Yeah.
And that individual, that elderly, that gentleman was saying that this was not about party. It's more about the person, the manifesto, and its qualification and what they can do to deliver. So when you're saying about, should we not remove party this time, or is this a new trend that we most likely would see heading into 2027?
It's everything. The party makes the individual, and the individual impacts the party.
Right.
If the party props you out and you do excellently well, people begin to look at your party in good light. So it's both ways, essentially. It's both ways. Yeah.
Now, at the top of the ticket, as Anambrans are heading out now to vote, we have 16 candidates on the ballot paper. When we look at, there's a lot that is plaguing the state. At the top of that list is insecurity. Now, we know that the incumbent has done his best that he can with Akune Chamber, the local vigilante group, and the synergy in trying to tackle IPOB and the other gunmen and, and sit-at-home orders and all of that. How do you see that playing into the exit polls? And I hate that this is a preemptive question, right? But but just work with me here.
So, well, there has been improved security in Anambra State, at least from the feelers and those on ground. We've not had too many incidents, of reckless, killings and all that. However, the fact that the messaging from the governor has been largely for someone who has the state at heart. He's not too, will I say, narrow-minded in his messaging. He feels like the father of the state. You get it. People are at home. People feel more comfortable, engaging. That is one. Two, the impact of his infrastructural development in the state. Some parts of the state feel he has not done enough. Some feel there are evidence that he's done something. And so there's a mix of factors that will make people say, you know what, we will stick with him. But it's a two-way thing. What I am seeing from my observation and from the feelers on ground is that this election is a two-way election between the governor, Abga, and the APC candidate. For two reasons. The governor, because he is the incumbent, he wants to win, and then the APC candidate, because he's fighting an almost unwinnable war, because in the southeast, APC is still largely seen as the odd party, but he has the support of the federal government, and then he has Senator Uche Ekwenife, who is a grassroots person. She's been in Anambra State since 1999, doing a lot in terms of politics. So you are seeing all the forces working together, either to the advantage of Nicholas, the APC guy, or the APCA guy. Yeah. But the ADC can put surprises,
right?
Because sometimes people are tired of the same old, so they want to see something new.
But has he done enough in terms of convincing the electorate? Because we've seen his interviews. You know what I mean? Yeah. We've seen, the rhetoric, when it comes to his manifesto. I mean,
sometimes
is this between the devil and
sometimes
the
sometimes you don't need to convince the electorate well enough. Were you convinced with the messaging from Governor Guber, for example, of Edo State?
Well,
were you convinced? Were you convinced of the messaging from the president when he was campaigning? Well, it's not just about the messaging; it's about the XYZ number of people who are going to mobilize numbers for you at the polls.
Let's talk about after the elections, after the votes are being counted. Okay. Do we have antecedent to show that maybe perhaps voting always goes peacefully in Anambra State, but the problem might be from after the counting, the trust,
transparency,
the transparency of the entire process, what it's been like for Anambra State in the past few elections and what it is now? Let's also note that inside of this dynamic is the new INEC chairman. What can he do different? Because he wasn't given any new tools. They just said, jump in. How's that going to affect the outcome? Do we have lawsuits backing when it comes to Anambra elections and maybe the losers or the winners? What do we know about after the votes have been cast in Anambra State?
Okay, before we talk about the after, for this election particularly, what seemed to be an interesting thing is the fact that before every election, the parties will have a peace deal to say, okay, you know what, we're going to agree to work on the electoral process and not violate the extant rules. That happened, and it was observed by INEC. I'm thinking that because he's coming in new, this is his first litmus test to say, is he good to go, or does he need to rejig certain things? I'm hopeful, even for the sake of Anambrians and for the sake of the newly appointed INEC chairman, that things go well in the process. I've heard from those that have voted, there has been no complaints. People have voted. People have not, been worried about. Everything has gone as smoothly as it should be. But politicians are difficult to satisfy. So most times, it is not about the voters. It's about somebody who wants to win by all means, at all costs. Therefore, instead of saying, "Oh, these elections has been held, but it looks like I'm losing, or it looks like I have to congratulate the winner," they will stick to their position to say, "I won." They have their situation rooms, by the way.
Have you had these situations have you had these instances in Anambra State?
In Anambra State,
is it a trend?
No, not necessarily a trend, but there has been strongholds that had issues where battlegrounds where it was going to go to the right or to the left. So everyone wanted, election to go their way by all means. So there was this time, I think, the last election where a certain election had to be redone in some local government because it was almost going to become violent. There was no assurances that the elections would hold without chaos. So it was suspended, and then the election was redone with close scrutiny, and then the winner was declared.
Let's look at federal might, very critically, but most importantly, the spread of the ruling party in their conquest to become a mega party. One of the most, I would say, I think the last stronghold to sort of defeat is the Southeast. They have one over Imo State. Abia State is fully Labour Party, and now there's Anambra as well. If they do not win the elections, would they have spread their tentacles still in the state? So, is there a chance that Anambra will change its flag, at least from the grassroots level?
So the issue with the Southeast electoral behavior is that it's almost always predictable. It's either going to go the PDP way, as we used to know before, or it will go against the ruling party, as we know now. But you have the Anambra State Governor, Charles Soludo, who has a relationship with the president and has used every chance and opportunity to say, come 2027, I'm going to ensure that my party, my people vote for President Tinubu. He has declared that APGA is Tinubu is the flag bearer of APGA. 1. 2, you have the second strongest contendant, the APC guy, who is also messaging and trying to see how he can throw his support for Tinubu. By the way, out of 5 states, when Tinubu came in, it was only 2 states that were under APC. Now we have 3 states. Even without you having people decamp completely into APC, in their hearts, they may be supporting APC. But I don't see APC gaining even beyond 40% of the votes in the Southeast, regardless of if the entire Southeast decamps to APC, which I don't see possible happening, But politicians, with the way they are, for a Soludo, for example, the question would be, what next after my governorship election? Am I going to vie for the Senate? Am I going to be somewhere vying for the presidency under APGA? He knows his chances. So they read the political leaves in a certain way and say, I'd rather do this for my own political future. So sometimes when politicians become selfish, it is not because they don't understand their base. It is because they say, this is how I'm going to survive the political space.
It's interesting that you say they read the political tea leaves, because when you say that, I see them at some shrine in Ihiala or something like that, reading actual tea. I'm joking. But Abdul Latif, it's great to have you here. We're still going to keep you through the course of today up until noon, so please don't run away. Meanwhile, we have, well, let's say, information about what's happening from the people themselves, call it the horse's mouth, when it comes to the electorate, and also the officials, the party officials, from happenings currently in Anambra State. So let's take a look at what they're saying, what's going on, and what the mood is from personal points of view.
It's obvious. We are set up by 7. So we are waiting for the voters, and the voting will commence by 8:30 on time.
Okay. Any worries about unforeseen circumstances?
No. We just want the electorate to behave, follow the instructions, vote, and let's move on.
The process this morning is very, very good and fine. I never see such it before. You people say things and do it as you say it. Before 7 o'clock I came here, I came before 7 o'clock. When I came, I see all these INEC people here, certain things. I was very happy.
Actually, I've seen that the product of the election is going on well since they have been planning for it. We have been seeing that it's moving on well, and this is the reason why we are here today to confirm that what we have been hearing, if it's true or not.
Actually, since we came, we have 2 polling booths here. We have 006 and 007. 007, people have been voting, but here in 006, we are stuck with the network issue. Nobody has voted here, but I think they are working on it now to stabilize the network. Even though many people are supposed to have voted, but we are very sure that they will still vote. Once they get it right, this place, I think people will vote. So I'm not yet afraid. We are just, we are hopeful that needful will be done.
Welcome back. This is the live coverage for the Anambra State gubernatorial elections as polling stations have opened across several polling units in some local government areas of the state. Anambrans are heading to the polls to decide who will lead the state for the next 4 years. Now, as voting is commenced and numbers begin to come in, let's look at how it will shape and also shift data. Now, also look at precedents as well. What will the figures really tell us about the Anambra State electorate? But most importantly, the numbers from before and how it will play out today with the exit polls. Is there a pattern, turnout patterns, also gender distribution as well as youth participation and the strength of INEC's processes under its new chairman? But also most importantly, will there be election tribunals after? Let's see what the past tells, as they are indicators for the future. And doing that is none other than our very own Onyechi Obaru, who is on standby. Onyechi, a very good morning to you and looking ravishing as always.
Thank you so much, Judith. Thank you, Mazino. It's time to talk numbers. And of course, you know that when we talk numbers, those are where the facts are.
Right. Now also joining us as well will be Bukola Idowu. He's a team leader at Kimpact Development Initiative. Now he is with the group of observers who are observing elections across the 21 local government areas in Anambra State. They will be giving us insight and in-depth on their observers, what they're observing across the polling units in the state. But first, let me start with you, Onyechi. What are we looking at?
We're looking at numbers that would determine the turnout today and the results today from the Anambra State election. Yes, of course, we know that it's another by-election here at our table, and Professor Charles Soludo will be in contention with Ukachukwu Nicholas of the APC and 14 other candidates to vie for a seat at the Lighthouse in Awka, Anambra State. But here are where we get to lay the cards on the table, see how results and turnout and registration and numbers from previous elections from 1999 to 2021 would reflect in today's election, would also be a determinant of today's election. We know for sure that it's another by-election, and 60 candidates will be contending for seats from 21 local government areas in Anambra State, and it's a big contest indeed with what happened over there in the 2023 election. Let's see for sure that we have zoning arrangement to be a big factor because it favors the Anambra South Senatorial District, as 10 of the contenders hail from that district. Only 6 are not hailing from that district, and we've seen that more governors from the state has come in from the Anambra South Senatorial District. But will that happen today? Will it be a key determinant for today? There is an intrazonal shift over there for contenders in this Anambra State election. The Independent National Electoral Commission has brought up cards, tell us what numbers of registers, what numbers of their staff, what numbers of the LGAs that every single voter would head to exercise their franchise. So let's see the numbers. Of course, here today, Saturday, November 7, 2023, 5, we have the likes of November 8, I beg your pardon, registered voters, approximately 2.6 million. Now, this is the highest number ever coming from Anambra State for registered voters, the highest number. If you check out from 1999 to 2021, you'll see that we've not had numbers like this for registered voters for the Anambra State election. For polling units, 5,718. The words, 326 words will welcome voters to come exercise their franchise today in 21 local government areas, like I did say. And INEC did deploy 24,000 personnel to exercise this election here. Security deployment, of course, and we know that pocket of violence, unpredictable. We have to be on guard. 45,000 officers, 10,250 NSCDC officers have been deployed for this election. Now let's look at the patterns from 1999 to 2021. The numbers may look, the red, the blues, the greens over there, but this is where we have a breakdown. From 1999, the number of registered voters, 2.22 million there. The vote cast, 1.3 million, and that is a 46% turnout, as you can see on your screen, 46% turnout. But there was a big leap in 2007, but the registered voters not amounting to the same we saw in 1999. So 1.84 million to 1.70 million here, 1.17 million for the votes cast, and 64% turnouts, the highest ever. But there was a drop, 1% drop in the change registration. Of course, you can see the big difference here from 2.2 million to 1.8 million. That's a 1% drop there. That's what we can see from the 2007 election, having 64% turnout of voters there. But changing vote cast is always a big determinant too. The only place it got up from 1999 to 2007 was a 33% leap up in 2007 for the vote cast. So sometimes we might have a lot get to register to exercise their franchise, but on election day, we do not see them turn out in their numbers, and that's why we're seeing a drop here, 2003, 2007, a little bit of leap. Now, 2021 election here, you should see the numbers almost close to what we have, the registered voters we have for today's election, 2.47 million. And we have a 10% turnout. You can see that's the lowest ever from the turnout of voters who came to exercise their franchise at the Anambra State election. But there was a leap in the registration. Yes, very obvious here. Away from that of 2017, where we got 2.06 million, and 2021 we're getting 2.47 million registered voters. That's a 14% leap, from judging by the difference from these numbers. But here the votes cast dropped drastically at 43%. That's the last election there at the Anambra State. We know that APGA has always taken the lead in 4 consecutive elections in 2013, 2017. We've got them 2010 and 2021. They have had the seat at the Lighthouse in 4 consecutive elections. What will play out today? That's a big question. But in all, the summary here says that when there is a low turnout, there is always a high margin for the winner. We saw that in 2021. Of course, a low turnout on the day, but a very high margin for the winner. That's APGA, that brought in Professor Charles Soludo. Now, when there is a high turnout, there is always a close contest among contenders in the election. That we saw in 2017. And also in 2007, a 64% turnout there, but a very high contest among the contenders for the seat at the Lighthouse. Now, moving away from here, let's see how the voting patterns has been from 1999 to that of 2021. There are key determinants. I did tell you that zonal representation will be a key factor in this Anambra State election, as 10 of the candidates there, they hail from the Anambra South Senatorial District. It was only Peter Obi who was able to break that jinx at the time, because he was from the Anambra Central Senatorial District. But right now, let's see if that will be a determinant factor today. Let's see what the next slide says. At the moment, we have, at this time, the total registered voters, for the 2021 election. Let's make it as a scorecard for us at this point. Now, total registered voters was over 2.4 million registered voters. Accredited voters for the day were 253,388. The valid votes were 241,523. I did say it, that when there is a low turnout, you can see that kind of votes coming from there. There's always a close contest between among the contenders. The rejected votes, yeah, little number there, 8,108. The vote cast, big enough, encouraging enough there from the valid votes, of course. The winning party, ABGA, was being 4 consecutive elections. Yes, Professor Charles Oludo, with 112,229 votes, he did pick that particular election. For the runners-up, 3rd place, 4th place, we could see, and we could see also the margin, 36%. ABGA won by 36% of the total vote cast for 2021. All right, let's look at the LGAs right now. What are they looking like in the Anambra State election? Now, this is the total analysis. As I did say earlier, that INEC report 2.8 at this time registered voters with 5,718 polling units at 326 ward collection centers, 24,000 deployed officials. The zoning arrangement, as I did say, would favor Anambra South Senatorial District, and it will shape this contest. Historically, low voter turnout, around 10% in 2021, is expected to persist between 10 to 15%. Would that play out today, this year? This year, is that what we're going to see today? Big questions we're asking. But let's go to the local government areas right now, because we've been talking about this Anambra South Senatorial District. What would they do? Yes, let's move ahead, please. We've got the local government areas, I beg your pardon, the local government areas. Thank you. Now, we've got 21 local government areas in Anambra State, and this is how they have been able to turn out at the 2021 poll. We saw that Agota there at 4,773 for APC. That's the votes that are coming up from that particular area. But what is the biggest catch in this chart? Now, we are seeing the likes of Awka South at 2,000 for APC, 12,891 for ABGA. Of course, ABGA has got a strong hold over there in Awka South. And winning the whole local government areas from Agota, Anambra East, Anambra West, Analcha, Awka North, Awka South, and Ayamilum. You can see that ABGA picked all those local government areas. Big contest there. They won with a big margin. Let's move to other local government areas in Anambra State for the 2021 poll. Yes, we can see Abusigo there, over there, Idemili North, Idemili South, Ihiala, Njikoka, and also Nnewi North over there. And ABGA picked every single thing. This is the only party from Nnewi North who was able to shake something. And it's a bit alarming in other states, because you can see that the dominant parties in other states always PDP, APC, and the shake-up from Labour Party, of course, at the last general election. But in Anambra State, it's a different kettle of fish. It's a different ball game, because ABGA has got their strong hold in the state, and that's why they've had that stronghold for 4 years, 4 consecutive years in the state election. What is going to play out today? Big questions we're asking. But let's see the candidates that hail from a particular senatorial district. Let me have that right now. Candidates hailing from a particular senatorial district. I must tell you that the incumbent at this time, he hails from Anambra South Senatorial District. And we've got Mohalu also hailing from Anambra South Senatorial District. And you'll be wondering what is about this particular zone in Anambra State election. But that is where most of the candidates will come up for to be the final man, the sheriff in town at the lighthouse. That is where they hail from. So zoning arrangement will be a key determinant in today's election. Back to you, Mazino and Judith.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. You must need some water after that, but that was epic. Thank you. I'm very interested to see the second slide again when it comes to the LGA performances. I want to find one with Ihiala on it, because it seems to be a very interesting area of note. The Ihiala, Yes, that's the second slide for the LG performance. If we can have that on set on full screen so I can see that myself. Now, I'm looking at, exactly, thank you very much. APGA here, 8,283 as against the APC's 343. This is 2021, and I'm wondering whether that still holds sway or will still hold sway today for the elections. YPP coming in after, that's 344 with just only one person extra. But the PDP seems to be, well, at 6,000 less in any case, still at second place there. Since it's a very contested area, I wanted to know, because I want to use this as a template for what might be for the rest of the, or generally the rest of the local governments put together. But yeah, it's interesting to see how they hold sway or not in that particular local government area.
And also, what's going to be interesting as well is to see whether or not the top three, which will be, of course, Valentine Okigbo for the ADC, as well as Mr. Prince Ukachukwu for the APC, as well as incumbent, and see whether or not their local governments, where they're domiciled, will vote for them as well. But very in-depth analysis. I must say thank you, Oyechi, for taking out the time to give us all of that data. Let's switch gears now to bring in Bukola. Bukola, your organization is monitoring the elections across Nigeria. You have seen the data that Oyechi have presented for us, and you also are observing, logistics and technology, as well as the elections have commenced. I will have to ask you first, what are the critical points at this time? What are some structural or infrastructural delays that you have witnessed from your observers?
I think in one or two places, just few polling units, we have seen situation where BVAS have not been able to capture accurately or accredit voters, so which shows that at some point that need to be rectified. Aside that, I don't think, and which basically they are just in few places, and they're not general. In some places, those BVAS were replaced, and I think INEC have one of the things they did excellently this time around was to have enough reserve for BVAS, so which I think is a good thing in one of the polling units, and I think I remember your reporter also talk about that, where that BVAS was changed. So that is one area. But again, you see, BVAS working is totally different from the efficiency of the BVAS in terms of the number of the range of time at which is accrediting a voter. And if you do your tabulation, if this is taking more than 3 minutes to accredit a voter, if you have higher voter turnout, that means you are likely going to be having this election entering late in the evening. But if we like we have seen an average of 2 minutes, and then coupled with the fact that the turnout has not been great at this time, then this election may have most of the voting must have been concluded by 2:30 as proposed. So which means plus or minus without any hitch or glitch, whatever, we expect that results, we should be able to have the result of this election today late in the midnight. But I think with all things being equal, on IREV, we should be able to have all the results maybe latest by 10 p.m. this night, because the turnout we have seen has not been encouraging.
Also invite in here now Elvis Akwobi, Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative, is joining us. He's also an observer. Elvis, are you there? Can we see your visuals? Please, and perhaps maybe if you can indicate if you can hear us correctly. Elvis? Grand. Elvis, good to have you here. Let's talk about zoning. Good. So zoning has long been a stabilizing factor when it comes to the elections inside of Anambra State, and I'm wondering whether it still serves its purpose right now. We seem to have lost Elvis. Bukola, I'll have to come to you with that question regarding zoning and especially how it's going to affect the elections today, how it has always been a stabilizing factor in the past, and how you think it's going to play in these 2025 elections across the local governments.
Zoning is what is going to win this election for the winner. Whoever is going to win this election, zoning is what is going to win the election, because you need to understand historically with Anambra and at the same time Nigeria election generally, there is this attachment to our ethnicity and there is this attachment to zones that we come from. And when you look at it, for instance, let's take the data from 2023 election. You find out that in some, in most of the states in Southeast, Peter Obi had close to 80%, of course, 80% vote in the Southeast in 2023 election. So you cascade that down to even the state itself. So you are going to find out that zone is going to play a major role. Now, if you go back to the data that was displayed at the other time, and you are asking specific question about Ihiala. So one of the things you need to understand about Ihiala, though a bit is, they have insecurity in that particular place, even in that 2021 election. But they still turn out and have 8,000 votes for Abga at that particular time, because the candidate of Abga, Soludo, come from that senatorial district who won that election. So one of the things you need to see is that, look, the zoning, and in terms of senatorial loyalty and alliance, is just very, very, very pronounced when it comes. And that is why, don't be surprised by the time they tabulate the results today, that the Anambra South is likely going to have more votes for the winner, because they may think that, look, this is the candidate is from our zone. And that is why some people have even felt like, okay, what? Yeah, whether you like it or not, why not let this man just conclude his 8 years and then we move to another zone? But that is what it has been. And it's also, for me, is not. I think we should have gone past that when it comes to our elections and democracy in Nigeria. And why am I saying that? Because we need to begin to prioritize competence above wherever you come from. And so and that is one thing we need to begin to look at. It is not about where you come from. It is about what you can bring on the table, how your program about about security, about economy, the standard of living, education, maternal mortality, a whole lot of things that you need to be able to put in place. But we are dealing with citizens who hardly read manifestos, who hardly watch debates, and at the end of the day, they just feel, well, it's from my zone and it's the turn of our zone. And then they move into that. That is one of the things we are dealing with.
I'm sorry, while we're still on this matter of zoning, I'm very curious. The numbers that we see when we analyze these numbers from these zones, is it based on the population of these zones, or is it the sentiment of the people who came out to vote? What are we looking at exactly? I'm hoping that you understand the question. I'm not a statistician, but I'm hoping you understand if it's the number, the general number of people that came out to vote. Are those the numbers we're seeing when it comes to the analysis of the zoning, or is it the representation of people's sentiments, their preferences?
No, that is that. I think that is the results as declared by INEC in 2021, and that is what you have seen. So it's not like the sentiment; it is the actual it's what we call valid vote cast. And then when you now break the valid vote cast into political party, that is exactly what they got in the election in 2021.
You're making. And also, you've observed from 2021 as well that brought in Soludo. Now your observers are back there. What were some flashpoints or hotspots that that you identified, and are your observers around those areas? What are some some issues that you preempt may happen today?
Yes, so basically we are looking at, in our pre-election security assessment report we released, we have been able to raise, two local governments as that we raise them that they have severe risk when it comes to this election that is taking place today, and that is Agwata local government and Ihiala local government. Fortunately or unfortunately, the governor comes from Agwata local government and the Ihiala also. But when you look at that, these are still the local governments in terms of when you look at the security situation in that particular place, is still not encouraging. Though they have a bit of a higher voter turnout if you compare with other local governments, but at the same time, the turnout has always been low because people, at some point in time, are scared of coming. If you remember in 2021 election, for ELA local government, to be precise, election has to be reconducted a week later in that particular local government because the INEC deployment could not happen in that local government. Ad hoc staff were kidnapped in that local government, and had ransom. It took the combined effort of the military and the Air Force to rescue INEC officials. There in 2021, if you remember, they have to go and reconduct the election in that place in the following Saturday, and then they now move the entire security forces to go there. Now, has anything changed? Nothing much have changed, and that is why we raise the bar of that particular place, the color code of that particular place to red. And then again, you look at Ihiala too, also have the same thing. But if you now ask me, the rest of the place are a bit moderate risk. And again, when you look at one of the things we need to also understand about our election, most especially off-cycle election, you see, one of the data has shown us that election violence happen more in general election on election day in general election than off-cycle election on election day. And why do you think that is happening? For instance, the police deployment in Anambra is, they gave us the figure of 45,000 policemen coming into Anambra. Then the civil defense is deploying 10,250. So put that together. Then immigration deployed. You also have NDLEA deployment, EFCC deployment, DSS deployment, Nigerian military deployment into one particular state, and that is why on election day, off-cycle election with security agency flooding the state, then you are not likely going to have issue of violence, most especially on election day. But the case, there is always a flip when it comes to general election because they don't have the luxury of policing the entire country with that magnitude. They are policing a single state. And that is why you see intimidation. You see that happening in Lagos during the general election. You see in various places. So this is the dilemma. And we need to begin to have what we call a framework for that, because most time, and that is why when you look at the report of off-cycle election, we are always being deceived. You will think everything is in place until you get to the general election. Things now begin to get out of hand. Now, let me give you an example. Look at IREF in Osun. Governorship election in 2022. That was the last election to the general election in February 2023. And as of 10 o'clock, all the what do you call it? All the report, all the results from EC8A have been uploaded on the IREF. Then, few months later, the general election, then we keep hearing that there was a glitch. So most times, I think for us as KDI, we have been able to disaggregate or separate off-cycle from the general election, because the preparation that goes into off-cycle, you don't have that preparation. You don't have the entire resources in the general election. So today we expect a peaceful election with the magnitude of security agency in the states.
I hear that Elvis Akpobi is with us. Elvis, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Elvis is the Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative. Elvis, I've got a question for you. It still has to do with zoning, but this time let's pitch it against the manifestos of the candidates. I'm wondering whether you're expecting to see a trend here from previous trends, perhaps, where voters are voting considering the manifestos of the candidates that they are voting for, or does zoning still take the cake? Are they still looking at zoning as the determinant factor for who they are voting for, or are they considering the manifestos of the candidates?
For me, I want to marry the state, that of Delta State. You know, when you teach people one thing over and over again, it becomes that part of them. For Delta States, we have zoning for the Swiss Electoral District, and it's not becoming an unwritten document. So I want to presume that's what's happening with Anambra State. You know, we Nigerians are emotional people, irrespective of competence and all that manifest. Once it has already been a culture, people already appreciated it's our turn. You find out that it reflects in the voting pattern. So I will presume that most of the electorate want to vote towards. They have zoning in Anambra State. They want to go towards the zoning, the rotational pattern. And another thing I noticed again is zoning brings inclusion of different ethnic groups. Our democracy is laced with, emotional bias. It comes first before competence. And today I see that happening in Anambra State elections, because most of the electorate have engaged with the work. They say, okay, it's our turn, it's time, we'll have our fair share of the governance, and we'll vote in accordance to what the zoning pattern is. But the thing here is that this is an opportunity for a number of people to, decide whatever makes Anambra greater, or maybe just either make or mar Anambra State. We should know that this is another opportunity for them to decide their future. And I want to, and from what I've got to, there is voter apathy. And when voter apathy comes up, it means just a very negative signal that people no longer have trust in the electoral system. And this is another opportunity for the new INEC Chairman to prove itself that there will reform INEC, where the votes of the people count, where what's written on the book reflects reality, mostly with the IRF and BVAS. Because if you tell me there's an act that says BVAS or IRF works, let that happen in play. Also, I want to urge the point to urge quickly men that they're just there to protect life and property and not to influence what happens in the results of today's election. Because Anambra State is a very pivotal state in Nigeria. We already have issues of insecurity and all that. Let's not add that. Let's not add another problem to what's happening now.
I would have to, let me just come to Bukola here. Bukola, another issue that we're going to discuss very in depth is insecurity. We know that even before the elections, we saw a sort of smooth campaign season where all candidates respected each other. We've also seen the peace accord, even though one party refused to sign that peace accord. What are your observers saying regarding tensions? And do you think, or from the trends that you've seen, are there hotspots where violence might erupt, or ballot snatching, box snatching, ballot stuffing, situations like that?
Contrary, what we have seen and the report we have gotten so far from the observer and what we have seen going on the feed, and I have also seen myself, is actually complete opposite of the tension, the pre-election tension. I can tell you, to my greatest surprise, the atmosphere here is calm. and there is no tension anywhere. People just come out and vote. And to my greatest surprise, you still have 1 or 2, 3, few shops open in some of these commercial areas. People are even buying and selling. So I have not seen any tension here. So where you are likely going to have tension is the acceptance of the result of this election. And that acceptance and that tension, which most in the recent years has always been shifted to the judiciary. So which, technically, in fact, the judiciary has set up the tribunal already for this election. So 21 days after the result has been declared, so we expect them to get their hand busy, because the law says 21 days after the result has been declared, you go out and file. So what it means is that the tension, if any of the candidates refuse to accept the results, they just move into the tribunal. But Anambra, as of now, that is like about 10-17, the environment is calm, and I think people are just voting. But one of the things you also have to understand is that when it comes to tension in election and when it comes to violence in election, you see, around 10 o'clock is too early to start talking about those stuff. Now, what normally happens is towards 2:30, when result is being counted, or when somebody, one particular around 2:30, and that is if you check the trend in terms of time series, time stamping of incident, between 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock is always the high peak in any election, because as at that time you will know if your candidate is leading, and then that is when some funny party agent signal people to come and disrupt the entire process, cut away the ballot box, or shooting, or disrupt counting, or disrupt collation when they know that something is happening. But as of now, everybody, people will come out and vote, and then the canvassers are the polling units, which unfortunately, it looks like we are helpless when it comes to those canvassers trading votes, buying and trading votes. This is the time they are advertising their market, and voters are deciding, oh, is this one paying 5,000? Is this one paying 7,000? So which one should we go for? But at the end of the day, when it comes to violence, the election security, we wait till around 12, around 1 to between that 4, and that is one of the things we have put in our report, that security agents again at that time.
Thank you very much. Bukola, let's invite in, we have Faith Nwadishi, Executive Director of Center for Transparency and Advocacy and lead at CTA Observers Mission to Anambra. Thank you very much, Faith, for joining us. Faith, let's take a look at the demographics that are at play here. Let's take a look at the young demographic. Now, the younger generations have said that zoning, especially zoning, actually excludes them from participating inside of the elections. And I'm wondering what you have found out, whether data or otherwise, to show how the political class can actually bridge this gap between that generation and what's happening currently in politics.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. On the issue of zoning, Anambra State has historically, since 1999, had been zoning, especially in the last 12 years. So the issue of young people not being part of the zoning structure, it's a question of the parties themselves and how they have included young people in their systems. So, for instance, if you look at this particular election, this election is about Anambra Central, where you have the incumbents and some others. Most of the candidates from the political parties are from Anambra Central, even though you have one person from Anambra North, that's the YPP candidate also from Anambra North. So you're seeing that everybody is aligning to this particular zone. And this has also played out in some states, like my state, Delta State. There's been a rotational contest from the different zones in the state. One way this helps to this may also be something that people will say, okay, you're excluding some people who may be eligible to participate in a particular election. But again, if we understand that this is a system that plays out within the political sphere, what it means is women, young persons, and every other person should be able to, bring out their best from these particular zones so that elections can be held and they put their candidates out. Because at the end of the day, the larger population will say, oh, you are leaving us out of the election if people from our zone are not being fielded. The last governor was from Anambra North, and you have this particular governor now from Anambra Central. So perhaps when the Anambra Central concludes whatever happens today, and you still have Anambra Central candidates at the Anambra South candidate on the ballot, it means that the next election will be going, you'll be seeing people from the other senatorial districts participating. So it's important to have these conversations. It's also important to understand the context and the reality of most political associations that you have within the country and how all of this plays out.
All right. As we're talking about, observance and also zoning and how it will play out at the polls, let's also look at a group of persons we've not taken into cognizance, and that's persons living with disabilities that are voting. And let me ask you, Faith, you are out there and you're part of the observers. Have you watched the process when it comes to inclusion for the exercise? Have you witnessed any persons living with a disability going out there to vote? And is INEC providing all the tools that they need from your own vantage point?
Saw two people from the polling units within the university, the Anambra Azikiwe University. I saw two persons who were, visually impaired, who had come to vote, but unfortunately their names were not on that particular voters register for that particular polling unit. So they had come in, they checked through their names, they went through the list over and over and again, and found out that their names were not on that particular polling unit. The other person came to a particular place to vote and found out that her polling unit had been moved from that place. She actually said she was out to vote, I think, the last 4 years or so. And you know that within the last 4 years, that 4 years ago was when they had creation of new polling units, and some names were moved, and people were even asked to move their names. So for the two cases that I saw, visually impaired, they were not able to vote because their names were not on the register. And so I became curious and I asked if they had the Braille ballot, for instance, for persons with visual impairment. They didn't have, because on the voters register, they didn't have anybody listed on that voters register as visually impaired. So during the briefing with civil society, INEC had informed that some of these assistive devices that you're going to find will be within the polling units where they have already listed, persons with such a disability to assist them in being able to cast their votes in that place. But beyond that, there was priority voting for older persons. I saw an elderly woman who voted, and there was priority voting for her. There was also one other woman whose name was on the voters register, but she couldn't get accredited because her fingerprint and her facial impression couldn't match. So she was just asked to wait around, and perhaps maybe later they will see what they can do and try again to see if she can vote. When it comes to assistive devices for persons with disability, the two I've seen, one didn't have his name on the voters register, the other couldn't locate her polling unit within the UNIZIC premises where she had said she had voted before.
Right. Bukola, do you want to add to that, your own observation regarding the exercise and the smooth process for persons living with disability?
So I think with what we have at the moment, where in those polling units where our observer observed the person with disability, they were given priority voting to be able to vote. But the challenge is that it looks like they are not much. I don't think the entire report we have is no more than like about 11 from across the local government. So and I think this is when you look at the number of these person with disability in terms of statistic released by INEC, they fall into thousands. So what I think is that is still the same thing around the apathy that is still affecting them. But again, there are a lot of factors that I also feel might be discouraging them from coming out in terms of you can look at the accessibility of our polling units in terms of how accessible is the place for person with disability. Number two, what about the sign language interpreter? Do we have it in some of these places? And then again, where do we need braille ballot paper? Many of them, I don't know, but INEC, these are the things INEC already said they have made provision for. But like I said earlier, this is still just 10, it's not yet 10:30. So they still have till 2, we still have till 2:30 till the poll will close. So we also expect that we keep tracking the report, and we want to see that they can still come out 12 o'clock, they can still come out 11 o'clock, they can still come out 1 o'clock. But now we are tracking. But like I said, the report we have, they are not even across all the local government, they are not even up to like about 12 or 15.
Bukola, let's talk about credibility now. In fact, I think my next question would go to both of you. When it comes to credibility of the elections, let's talk about the indicators that you think would serve as a good measure for how credible this election turns out to be. So what indicators would those be? Bukola, please, you go first.
Well, I think for me, I'm keeping my tab on like about 3 major areas in this election, and those are the salient areas that have become rigging hub for politicians that we have not seen. I mean, people have not noticed. And number one is in terms of the invalid votes. You see, what this area, we just overlook it. Let me give you data from 2019 to be precise. In 2019, the entire invalid vote in the country is in excess of like about 1.5 million invalid votes. Now, in 2023, we have like over 900,000 votes. So what that means, you see, because when the INEC put it and say invalid vote, and then we tabulate it and then we move on. No, what that means in 2019 is that over 1.5 million people, citizens, eligible voter, came out and their vote amounts to nothing. They were on the queue, they were accredited by BVAS, but 1 or 2 things will have happened. You know, but the definition of invalid vote is the type of vote which the intention of the voter is not known. So we want to keep tab on that, because for some times that have also been used to reduce the margin of lead between the winner and the first runner-up. Then you move, let's now come to Anambra. In 2013 governorship election, the number of invalid vote was 16,988. Then you move to 2017, the number of invalid vote came down. Good, which came down to 8,108. Then you now come into in 2021. It also came down actually, but it came down to 6,457. But let's now place it. Now that 6,457 invalid votes is actually more than the entire valid vote of Anambra West local government. In that 2021, Anambra West local government had the entire valid vote, had 5,232 votes. An invalid vote in that election is 6,457. So which means the number of invalid votes swallowed, the entire vote of a local government. The same thing, Oka North had 4,000 invalid votes. So we are keeping tab on that because naturally, INEC conducts what we call voter education. So people need to know how to vote. But for 6,000 people to come out and their vote amount to nothing, we need to begin to query that number because the high is high. We are not talking about 100, we are not talking about 500 invalid votes. We are talking about 6,000, more than the total number of people that came out in a local government. The second thing I am keeping my tab on when we see the result of this election is the number of missing ballots. And people have not been paying attention to missing ballot. And I am raising the concern. I'm raising the alarm now. Now, what do I mean by the missing ballot? Missing ballots is when accredited number of voter is more than the total number of votes cast. Accredited number of voter is more than the total number of votes cast. It should not be naturally because what we are having now is simultaneous accreditation and voting.
Bukola, just a second now. I hear you say unaccounted for votes and of course also the ballots there. I'm going to save time because we have our correspondent to get to, but I wanted to hear Faith's own response to that question regarding the indicators that she would use to deciding whether this election is credible or not. Faith, please, if you will, do tell us what those indicators would be for you.
Yes, very clearly, three indicators. First, the participation of the political class, voters turnout, and security personnel. For me, the participation of political class, we've been trying to observe that since we have been here. You find that you have 16 political parties that have fielded candidates, but you go out on the field, you are not seeing their party agents. So it is either they are not interested in the process, they are waiting for the outcome. Of course, obviously, they're the ones who benefit from the outcome. And when you do an integrity test for any electoral process, you're always finding that the political class is the weakest link there. So on Thursday, we are the central bank to observe the movement of sensitive materials to local government areas. Out of 16 political parties, we're only able to find about 7 political parties who had party agents there. And they didn't even have party agents to cover the 21 local government areas. Now, today, we are coming out to different polling units where you have polling centers where you have up to 5-6 polling units, and you just have one party agent who says he is covering the 5 polling units. So at the time the result is declared, that one particular polling agent will have to go to register for the 5 polling units. So you see that the political class are not actually spending money on where. And then, when Bukola mentioned the issue of invalid votes, it means also that the political class, they are not paying attention to issues before election. For instance, voter education. How do we get our people who wants to vote for us, to be able to cast their proper vote so that we don't have invalid vote? It is the responsibility of the political class to ensure that those who vote for them do the right thing on election day. And then finally for us will be security organizations and that. And I want to say that so far it's been so good. We went out, I was out, and some of my team members and of course the observers we put out there were at the polling booths at polling units as early as 7:45 a.m. But we didn't see INEC officials come at that time. But in over 60% of these polling units that we found ourselves, police and security agents were already on ground waiting for INEC officials. So for us, those are the 3 things. We're looking at political parties participation, we're looking at voters turnout, and we're also looking at security organizations to determine the integrity of the entire process.
All right. Lady and gentlemen, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us this morning, and well done on all the hard work that you are doing. Faith Nwandishi, she's the Executive Director of the Center for Transparency and Advocacy, as well as Mr. Bukola Idowu, who is part of the team at Kimpact. He's the team lead at Kimpact Development Initiative, both observers for the Anambra State gubernatorial elections. Once again, thank you. We'll switch gears now as our correspondents are live bringing us update. Mazino.
Yes, indeed. We have Victor Mbadikwe once again bringing us update from his location in Anambra State. Victor, let's go right to it. What is on ground? What's unfolding currently?
Absolutely. Judith, and you guys, well done for the good job you guys are doing over there. We're still at Orca South. We've also had the opportunity of, going around to other wards and polling it across the state capital and, its environs. First of all, it's a mixed bag of impressions. Remember, we did say that the election started on a good note. The electoral officers turned up early. Security officers, of course, also turned up early, but sadly the numbers that they expect to be turning out, maybe there'll be late bloomers later much in the afternoon, but as it is, it's just a few minutes before 11. It doesn't seem so good. It doesn't seem so good. In some polling units where we had maybe 100 had voted, and I'd imagine 100 voting just in the last 3 or 4 hours. That's a really, really low turnout. In some other places too, you might practically not even see any voter lined up for those elections. But basically, it's been a mixed bag of impression, like I said earlier. We're still hoping that they will still turn out in their numbers. Again, we also fear that there might be vote buying in some polling units. We did hear, some persons talk about how much they were given and all that. So of course, we have to be very careful, not, so that they won't get, they won't have to, So we met with the EFCC officials who also came to that particular, polling unit where we had such issues, and we spoke to them about what was going on. We didn't really like the response they gave. They made it look like they will be on top of the situation. We expect that they will carry out their own thorough investigation and, mount their own men in that particular unit and ensure that they do the needful. But they just said we're going to get back to us. So let's hope that these tides are turned down. Let's hope we don't have such cases of vote buying, basically. But all in all, of course, we still have a very senior and major election observer, Jike Ekpele, who also has his own impressions. You can walk up to me, sir. He also has his own impressions. He also wants to give us his own updates, what he's seen over, because he's also, he's also gone around.
Back to your camera.
He's also gone around, around sounds. Let him just share his own impressions and what he's seen so far and what to expect as the election continues to go on. Very good afternoon or good morning. It's still in the morning anyway. It's still morning, but the sun is heating up already. So the last few hours election began, or voting rather began. What have you seen so far? I know that we did start on a very positive note in terms of early arrivals of election materials, security agents in place and all of that, which is nice. But so far, is it so good or be poor?
I don't want to start by sounding like a prophet of doom. I did say that we're going to have we're going to have voter apathy, and it's playing out. This is one heavily populated voter center, and usually by now you will see very long queues and all that, and then behind me you're seeing trickles of people. As a matter of fact, we have what looks like crowd because some of them are just standing to see. Those who are queuing are just very little. But interesting news, just behind me is the only polling unit in this polling station that has the magnifying glasses for persons with albinism. Now the reason for that is because we guided INEC in terms of where to deploy, and because we within our data it indicates that we have one person with albinism, they deployed one magnifying glasses in readiness for that person. That's a good development because you don't want to disenfranchise anybody just because that person is one person. One person can change the dynamics of what the result will look like. So there are interesting dynamics playing out. I moved around. My focus was on the vehicular movement. I wanted to see what the street looks like, and the streets are empty. The security operatives at the roadblocks are a bit more cooperative. When they saw the fact that I was an observer, they opened the door for us to go. One of them was proving a little bit stubborn because he was talking to the driver. So I kept saying to him, look at me, I'm the one he's carrying. The vehicle has INEC clearance. And when he saw that, he just quickly opened and we passed. So there are also incidences where they sort of like, I would call it delay, not necessarily an arrest, where people that didn't have the permission were cordoned off. They were cordoned off and told to park. So the streets are empty. That's not a very good development, because the people that ought to vote should be on the street walking down to their polling unit. So we are hopeful that people who are still at home wondering will this election hold or not, we are appealing to you to come out and vote, because if we have this level of low voter turnout in one big polling unit that is usually known to be crowded, if we have this kind of sampling, early sampling, it's troubling. That means there's a likelihood of huge voter apathy, and that's not good for our democracy. You know, I'm so, like I said, I'm so grateful for the kind of media coverage we're getting. And when we started here, you noticed there were relatively nobody. And I believe that the advocacy effort, the broadcasting of some of this thing is contributing to people realizing that they need to come out and exercise their right to vote.
You know, I was also going to ask about, the voting pattern. What have you noticed so far? You did say that there is the glass for the albino. I mean, that's a good idea. Aside from that, what other voting pattern have you seen so far? Is it impressive?
Well, it's impressive. I saw a couple of minutes ago, I saw a pregnant woman, and I interacted with her, and I said, did they give you priority voting? She said yes. She smiled and said yes. That's a good thing. Looking at the line, I haven't seen much of women. You find men, young men, middle age, a couple of them. I haven't even seen more of the aged people. So the dynamics in terms of the voting pattern, the class of people coming out to exercise their right, we will say maybe it's too early to look at that holistically. But currently, the situation on ground, we're not seeing that growth in various dynamics of people that ought to come out and participate, which will make it truly inclusive. But it's commendable how the security operatives have conducted themselves so far, whether it's here on the street, in some of the polling units that we have visited, some of the feelers that we are getting from outside Oka, has been impressive. But there were some speculation of some skirmishes here and there, a situation where an observer got injured. Tear gas was released. We're still studying that development, because one thing is to get this kind of information. Another thing is to fact check the information so that you don't start playing out an old video that somebody is trying to throw the spanner in the works, So, but one thing that you can be sure, viewers of this channel, is that this channel and the team are credible. So the information you're getting from this channel, you can take it to the bank.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, Judith, you just heard from Jake. Jake, thank you so much. I'm pretty sure we'll have more time to spend together. Thank you so much. Well, of course, voting is still ongoing. We still have some more voters who have been carrying out their franchise. Again, before I begin to speak to the voters, I also have Samson Itodo of Yaga Africa, who will also be sharing his own observation so far in the last 5 hours and counting. Samson, sunny day, must have been very stressful, but I do know that you have your own, bias. Your impression so far, what you've seen here so far in the last 5 hours, has it been good? Could it have been better?
So this election has been underpinned by 3 tests. The first test is efficiency test. And what we were actually observing is whether INEC will break the jinx of late commencement of elections. Because in multiple election cycles, 2013, 2017, 2021, INEC has recorded late commencement across polling units. But for this election, there seems to be an improvement. One of the things that we have observed is that there was early commencement in about 48% of polling units, and this is based on Yaga Africa's statistical sample. So in 48% of polling units, the election officials arrived at 7:30. And so it does show that there is an improvement in the deployment and the management of election logistics. I think what's a bit concerning is just the level of turnout. As you can see, in this polling unit, there are over 3,000 voters, but I doubt if we've had over 300 voters who are casting their vote here. So that's the biggest concern. But I think the INEC officials, the security agencies, everyone here has been very professional in managing these elections.
All right. Thank you so much, Samson. So we still have a long time to spend with you. And I'm pretty sure my guys in the studio will also like to ask you much more questions. But before I hand over to Mazino, let me just speak to one electorate or two, if you give me time. He has voted already. Let him share his experience so far as far as this electionary process.
Just a second, Victor. Victor, I will let you speak. I will let you speak to that respondent there, but please do beg your pardon. We must speak to Austin Azu, who's also live and also has a respondent to speak to us. Austin, if you're there, let's hear you. Go ahead. Please give us a situation report of what's happening at your location, and then you can go ahead and let's hear from your respondent. But do make it brief so we can get back to Victor as well.
We are currently at Watsu Unit 0012 and 13, and this particular polling unit ought to be the polling unit, is a polling unit for the APC governorship candidate. However, we have some of the voters here to talk to us, and as well observer. First, let's begin with the voter. That's Jacob Dim. Okay, Jacob Dim, tell us what happened.
I have the old voter's card. Then, but that old voter's card have some fault on it. It nearly clean up. I took it the second time where they used to replace that one. I went to them. They give me the card. Later, 2 days, the card they can't clean off. Then I take the old one to go and vote. When I go there, they saw my name, but they didn't see there's number where they say this. So I told them, say, hence they see my name there. I will vote. They say no. That they didn't see the card. Even I hold the card here, the two of them. There's none of these things is my fault, and I'm supposed to vote. So they said that I should not vote. There's nothing I can do again.
So what do you have to tell INEC now?
What I tell INEC is that the replacing one is not clear. The old one where I give to them, make they replace the old one. They didn't bring it. They said they will do on transfer. Up till today, I didn't see the transfer. I didn't see the card. That new one. I didn't see the card. And I wanted to vote. So I don't know whether they will allow me to take the old one and vote. That's my problem.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. All right, okay, we have someone from Situation Room here. We have the representative. We have Ugochi Ihiahurike. Okay, tell us, what did you observe on the field so far?
All right, so far so good. We started from Akwebo, Nnewi. Akwebo is in Nnewi, Uruago, right? Akwebo has 5 political wards. So while we were there from 8:28 till 9 a.m. when we left. Between that time, it was just one ward that I've just been able to set up because that one ward is domicile. That's Akwebo Ward 5. But it will shock you to know that Akwebo Ward 1, 2, 3, and 4, they were unable to leave because of issues that revolve around vehicle, the bus to convert them to their respective wards and polling units. We are not really there as at 9 a.m. when we left. So that's what we observed there. So now coming to Nnewi South, we first went to Nnewi Central School that comprises of 4 polling units, 005, 6, 7, and 8. When we got there, so what we saw majorly was vote shredding, where people were actually voting. Both parties were actually actually trading, because you just vote and they will issue you a tag to indicate to and also to confirm actually that you've actually voted for us. That's what I observed there. Then again, we went to coming here in Osumenyi, that's 011 and 0112. What we've really observed here is so shocking that we're observing some young people that will tell you that they just clocked 18 years, and it's so worrisome because so many of them are not actually 18. So if someone is saying that, oh, I just clocked last month, I clocked 2 months ago, is a worrisome situation. Then again, we observe, because INEC in collaboration with TAF Africa and CDEC Africa, that's my own organization, who clamored and advocated for inclusive election. That's one positive thing we've seen, because we've seen a whole lot of person with disability here demonstrating that they are actually able to vote, that their disability doesn't really affecting their civic responsibility. So we've seen them demonstrating it here by coming out to vote. Then again, I think that's the major thing. But what is some situation here is those youths, those underage that we will see, but they claim to have clocked 18. Well, they were well tutored, because we had to interrogate them to know actually when did you actually clock that 18. So that's what we've seen here.
Okay, before I let you go, have you observed any vote buying process ongoing in any of these polling units you have visited?
That's what I'm saying, that in Otu ward we observed vote trading. That's where people, you just vote, they will give you a card. And we saw both parties issuing out those cards to those voters. And that's why I said that it's a worrisome situation. And maybe that's an innovative way of doing it in there. Because we are here also to see if we can actually observe where they're exchanging money or gift item, but rather they were not giving card that after the voting you can actually reconverge.
Okay, thank you very much, Gochi. We appreciate you. We hope to speak to you sooner. All right, back to you, Zeno, in the studio.
Very much, Austin. And back to Victor, who is also in Anambra State. Victor, if you're still there, you were going to give us another respondent. We apologize for cutting you. We had to take Austin Azu real quick because he had been waiting. So, Victor, if you continue with the respondent that you had, or maybe more information that has transpired since the last time we had you. Victor, are you there? Well, Victor is not there at the moment, but we will try to establish communication with him. It's still the observance of the 2025 Anambra elections across all the LGAs, 21 of them, and of course, the candidates, all 16 of them. We are going to be bringing you detailed information of how it's happening, what's happening, and of course, we'll be analyzing antecedents and, well, taking a look at what might happen after the votes have been cast into when the collation will begin, and keeping you abreast with the situation from across Anambra State, where we have all our correspondents who will be bringing these informations to you. Let's take a quick break now, and then we'll continue for after.